Milan, we're finally here. 3 weeks of epic Grand Tour racing, so much drama, more than you can imagine in fact. It's a beautiful day in the end, bit of rain overnight, but Milan has cleared up nicely and it receives once again in the year it celebrates Expo Milan 2015, the arrival of the 98th Giro d'Italia. You've heard of the famous Milan-Turin race. Today we travel in the opposite direction. It's Torino to Milano, 180 kilometers of flat racing expected to end in a sprint.
Benvenuti a Milano.
Bienvenue à Milan.
Bienvenidos a Milán.
Welcome to Milan and to Giro Extra. The Giro d'Italia returns to Milan. Last year it finished in Trieste, but it goes back to its roots, where in 1909, the very first Giro d'Italia finished right here. It's the very end of this wonderful, wonderful race. Greg LeMond is with me, and of course Juan Antonio Fletcher. And Juan Antonio, we've been here the whole time. It's been great, hasn't it?
It's been a great Giro d'Italia. I'm very happy sharing it with you, the program with Greg for the last days, and we pretty much enjoyed a lot, actually, and we are going to be proud of the cyclists, of the race itself, and of our show, of course.
Of course, of our show too. The crowds, as you can see behind me, are lining the streets here in Milan, and Greg, it'll be Alberto Contador, of course, who processes parades down here in the pink jersey. 7 Grand Tours. What a champion.
Yeah, he deserves to win the race. He's really raced the race a lot by himself, and he's defended himself against Astana, and he deserves a race. He's got a upcoming Tour de France. He's going to have to go for the second gold this year. But he's a great rider. He showed his cool yesterday, in spite of the bad day he had. And he's a Giro d'Italia winner.
He certainly is, a 2-time Giro d'Italia winner. Let's hear from him yesterday when he spoke to Juan Antonio after the stage.
Enhorabuena porque hoy.
Congratulations, because today it was a surprise for you that everybody saw you in not particularly good condition. It was an intense stage, but how hard was it for you on the Finestre? I think that I'm actually quite lucky, because cycling can always offer some surprises. I think the people watching me were actually more worried than I was. I had, of course, some difficult kilometers, but I knew that if I kept a good rhythm, the difference with the others on the finish line wouldn't be too big. I know I wasn't really on a good day, so I decided to control my pace. I knew that if I rode at a constant speed, it would be fine at the end. And in the end, I was pretty lucky that it ended up like this. Alberto, well, tomorrow's a quiet day, a day of celebration. I imagine that you and your team are really excited for that ending to this race. Yeah, I hope it'll be a quiet day. I'm delighted about the victory. I've worked a lot for it. Every day in the mountains, on the flat stages, we've all been focused on having to do things to defend the jersey. In the end, it was like a war between Astana and Alberto. I'm really happy, but now I'm thinking of resting up myself and, of course, begin the preparation for the Tour de France. Well, you're really a champion because you're already thinking about the next goal. First, though, enjoy your final day in pink.
But obviously, Alberto Contador very pleased after yesterday. He said that at no point did he doubt he would still retain the pink jersey, Juan Antonio. Some people have called it a ride of champions yesterday. How did you see Alberto's ride?
Yeah, his main thing, and the thing that we have to prize of Alberto yesterday, that he stayed calm all the time. He paced himself on the right way, and he never panicked. I mean, that's not characteristic. It's something that we really can read out of this Giro d'Italia from Alberto. He had this shoulder injury. He's got the crash before and just solo stage before, just before the 3 kilometers flag, and yeah, he just dealt with every situation, and he did again today, pacing himself on the right way and staying calm.
Greg, there was a point where people said it was the first crisis for Alberto yesterday. What do you think happened on the Colle delle Finestre?
Well, there's a lot of theories. I think, for me, it looked like he had what they call a bonk or frangal, which is low sugar, low body sugar, blood sugar. What happens in a race like the Giro, you run on very short reserves. Your body stores about 1,500 calories, and on a climb like that, you're depleting your sugar stores. If you're not eating and drinking a lot of sugars before it, you're going to 1 hour effort like that, you're going to run out of it. And it might not seem like, you might even not feel like he did, but it's just a little bit of depletion. And it's very hard to drink and replace carbohydrates on a climb. I saw him eating and drinking at the end. By the bottom of the descent, he started to come back. I think he had another little slow down towards the finish, but, you know, it's fatigue too. Psychologically, he's had a very tough race. actually, when you talk about the crash and all he's gone through, it's been a remarkable race.
It has been a remarkable race. Another race has just finished behind us, as you can see all the cycle tourists coming through. Let's hear now from Oleg Tinkoff, the owner of Tinkoff Saxo, but be warned, there's something quite shocking here.
Oleg Tinkoff, in your old dreams, did you dream about having such hairs?
Oh yeah, that has been my dream since 2007 when I started my cycling team. Was Tinkoff Credit System. Then we participate Giro. Giro has been always very special for me because I live in Italy a lot and I have a house here, and my family they all speak Italian, and yeah, and we try to win Giro always. We won 2 stages with Tinkoff Credit System. Now finally we won Giro. I'm very excited and I'm in pink, but I really hope I change my color in July into the yellow. I would like to have a yellow hair. I think it's more suitable, isn't it?
Yes, why not? And it's suitable with the color of the team.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Don't say I didn't warn you. Greg, we were hoping to get you a pink wig, but I couldn't find one, unfortunately. Let's talk more about yesterday. Fabio Aru won the stage, but there were some controversial things going on, certainly with Team Astana. How did you see it?
Well, I think maybe the lack of organization, lack of even a thought process of maybe winning the Giro, and that's what I was disappointed seeing, is the lack of decision. If I'd have been a director, I'd have immediately called Landa back to Aru, 2 of them together. You saw like in the last 3-4 Ks, they made up almost 2 minutes. And to me, you know, a race is never over to the finish, and you got to go. I always think of the overall victory. You're this close. I'd much rather see Aru attempt everything and blow it in the last kilometer than even win the stage, because it had gone down in history that he actually tried to take it away from Contador, and that, to me, that's part of racing. But you know, they're both young riders, and I think there could be a little bit of age difference. And I gotta really say, Landa, you got it. One of the guys that keeps getting missed here is Aru won the stage. You got Contador who won the overall, but Landa's on 2 mountain stages. Actually, he's probably been one of the most dominant, most aggressive riders in the whole Giro. And I look at his efforts. He's kind of the lost odd man out. So I think at 25 years old, I think you discovered another really future champion of the big tours. A good, you know, you got Contador, a little bit older. Now he's got a young replacement. It's good for cycling.
It's true, everyone's talking about it, of course. Landa's contract is up at the end of this year, and I'm sure we'll hear much more about him. Fabio Aru, meanwhile, finished 2nd here, 3rd last year. He's going to ride the Vuelta as well. Where do you see the rest of his season?
Well, first of all, I really think Aru is going to first enjoy this Giro d'Italia, probably think about that mid part of the race where he was also not that strong mentally. That's something that Aru probably needs to work on, and especially on carrying on his shoulder the fact of being the leader and being in Italy. But he will come. I mean, it will come naturally for him because he's still very young and already achieved a lot last year, and he confirmed it this year again. And the rest of the season, he probably, after this rest, he will start preparing, getting ready for the Vuelta, and he will give a great show again there for sure.
I'm sure he will. The pink jersey, the blue jersey and the white jersey all decided, but not the red. That will happen today. Let's show you today's stage profile.
So as I said, it's a Milan-Turin, but the other way around. Torino to Milano, all the way through the flat valleys. Following the rivers, we head towards Novara as well, out of Piemonte and into Lombardy. It is Turin-Milan, 180 kilometres, and once we get to Milan, capital of Lombardy, we'll head for 7 laps of a 5.4 kilometre circuit. Around the city, going clockwise and staying in the fair area of Milan. There are those laps, and we'll finish on Corso Sempione. Expected sprint today, Turin to Milan for the last stage.
So the red jersey up for grabs today. The top 5 could all win it. The first intermediate sprint is coming up in just 10 kilometres, so we're going to go live in a second. But Juan Antonio, the red points jersey for you, who's the favourite?
I mean, on the paper, I would say Sacha Modolo. He won most of the sprints except for the one of Greipel. And yeah, I mean, he's got the strongest lead-out train. But I will not underestimate Nitzel. I will not underestimate Elia Viviani. I think Sky after Ricci went home, probably they've been thinking about today's stage, and today we were having a chat with Bernie Eisen and Elia Viviani, and yeah, they were looking pretty much onto today's to give it a go, and I don't know, I wouldn't underestimate any of the other sprinters, of course.
No, of course not. 50 points on offer for the finish line here, 20 for each of the intermediate sprints. It's a long, straight 1 kilometre finish after 7 circuits in Milan. Greg, how do you expect this last K to go?
It's going to go fast, and hopefully everybody stay out of crashes. I think that's always, for a guy in the Maya Rose, it's for Alberto, it's going to be just staying upright and getting across the finish line. And you hate to say it, the race isn't over until the finish line, and I hope he stays up, comes through this, and there's no problems. But I love the flat sprint stages. It's always exciting. I like to see the guys fighting, and I don't like them crashing, but it is exciting.
It is exciting. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Juan Antonio. Let's go straight away now live to your commentators for this final stage, stage 21 of the 98th Giro d'Italia.
Thank you, gentlemen. Everybody's smiling. It's parade day today. A chance for us all to reflect on what has been a monumental Giro d'Italia. 95 kilometres remain until we get to the finish line. So much to talk about between then. Who's been the winner? Who have been the losers? Who've been up there with notable mentions as well. We'll try and go through everybody's report card and all the different classifications. Many of them we don't see on a daily basis. Not all represented by jerseys, of course. It's a nice enough day in northern Italy. Sun has been out at different parts during the route, but it's a little overcast at the minute. Nice temperatures of the mid-20s though, and Milan awaits for another Giro d'Italia arrival. Normal racing though, and the odd bit of flats and different problems also arise. There's Alexis Saramontins with a little problem. Yam Cycling have had more of their problems in this Giro d'Italia. They're going to finish with 5 riders. 4 did not finish throughout, and of course their main sprinter Matteo Pelucchi already out of this race. All their eggs today will be placed in the basket of Heinrich Hausler. Up there in the sprint to Lugano. Flat day today, it's going to be difficult. We'll have the views of Sean Kelly when we come back after this first commercial break. So we're approaching the first intermediate sprint of the day, heading to Novara, and it looks as though we've had our first breakaway of the day. BMC en masse, 3 riders in fact have taken Philippe Gilbert up there. Philippe Gilbert is close enough to get the intermediate sprints prize, for which there is no jersey here. However, he mathematically has a chance of doing something in the points standing today. He'd have to do something pretty special. He'd have to take both intermediate sprints and realistically be up there in the final sprint. And with the lack of pure sprinters ready for the arrival today, it's worth having a go, isn't it, Sean?
Well, he's certainly up there in the classification, so he's definitely having a go on the intermediate sprints, as you said. That classement he's up there, but also he's going to pick up for the points classification jersey, which he's very much up there as well. So by going for this one, you know, he gains points for both, but as you said, to get up there in the final in the sprint at the very end, hard thing to see Philippe Gilbert getting up in the top places.
Well, he's won 2 stages. He's actually won the Trofeo Bonacossa as well for the best exploit of the Giro d'Italia, apparently. Voted for by journalists. 90.2 kilometres to go, and at 90 kilometres to go you've got that sprint. Richese's on his wheel. Richese's the Lampre lead-out man. So Richese, actually, Argentinian rider. He just gets a thumbs up. He's going to be allowed to take maximum points. So Gilbert, Richese and Burkhardt, the 3 coming across the line. So there's intermediate sprint points and points, jersey points as well. In the meantime, Ivan Basso is going to lead everybody through Novara. Tinkoff Saxo have had a bit of a pink spruce up overnight. Everybody's got pink gloves, pink socks and pink handlebar tape. Roberto Contador, well, he's gone for the works. Pink bicycle, pink wheels. Pink strip on the saddle as well. And he will be the winner of this year's Giro d'Italia. Doesn't look like the break will try to stay away. It's a nice day for everybody in the peloton. And what sort of atmosphere is around on these sorts of days, Sean?
Well, the atmosphere is that the peloton will roll along at an easier pace, that you haven't attacks, and it's pretty much understood thing on the final day of a 3-week stage race where, you know, you roll along. We see the Tour of France, and we've seen the Giro of past where they just they go along at a steady pace, get onto the finishing circuit, and then the race starts in the last number of laps. And except when you have a little bit of a battle here for the intermediate sprint classification, but we can see there that Philippe Gilbert's team are just going to, cut their effort now and wait for the peloton again. The peloton realises that, they're no panic at the moment. They'll just hope that they will stop, and we can see they're up front. They're just cutting off their effort.
Well, there's Sacha Modolo. He's going to mop up points for the intermediate sprints classification. Interesting that there's no Elia Viviani, no Sky hanging about there. No Giacomo ʻdʒiːro. They're all thinking of putting all their eggs in one basket and trying to take the win. Remember, 50 points on offer for today. And if any of the guys such as ʻdʒiːro, Modolo, Viviani take the win, then they are really looking at a real chance to walk off with a jersey at the end of the day.
Yes, well, I think the big sprinters are thinking about, the big final sprint of the day, try and get the stage victory, and then when you're in the points classification, if you can do that, well, yeah, you can also take that jersey. And there's a good number of the big sprinters there in that classification, but surprising that they weren't a little bit more between ʻdʒiːro, Modolo. We see him just taking up some points there, picking up some points. Surprised the other ones didn't go for it, but I think they feel comfortable, and I think ʻdʒiːro feels comfort that he can do the business on the finish line and take stage victory and get maximum points. That way he gets both.
Well, chance for all sorts of things to happen. We've got another intermediate sprint coming up a little later on. That's when we get to the finish line in Milan at the end of the third of 7 laps of a 5.4 kilometre circuit. This is the back of the group that has been in festa, as they say around here. Party time today. We've already had the typical Prosecco shots. We had the pink rinsed-haired Oleg Tinkov, as you already said. Is that bizarre? I don't quite know how to describe it. He's a very happy man as well. Fabio Aru. A wave to the camera. And I suppose as we start to sum up the Giro d'Italia, we can start with Fabio Aru, Sean, and what a day it's been for the Sardinian. Time to celebrate 3 weeks. He had his nasty, difficult period halfway through this race where he was struggling. It looked as though he might be wiped off the podium altogether. A great recovery. He's won the last 2 stages, and it really is another big step forward in his career this year.
Yes, it definitely is. The disappointment in the second week of the race, where he got into a difficulty after the time trial, seemed to have problems recovering and suffer for a number of days, and looked like that he was going to have problems to stay on the podium. But what a recovery. Comes back and wins 2 stages, and of course, still up there in the general classification, second against a Contador. That's always been looked at as a great performance. And he's a young rider as well, 24 years of age, so he's improving all the time. We talked about that in the early part of the Giro, where the last 2 years he has been winning stages in Vuelta, in Giro, and this was the first time he was really going to go for the overall, really challenge it, and he's done quite well. So when you consider all of that, and especially his age, I think there's a lot of room for improvement there for him to get stronger, and it looks like that he could win a big tour. His time trial, I think, it had to be improved a bit, but over time I think that is very possible as well. A bit of more work on that, and if he can overcome that, the time trialing, be more consistent as well in the 3 weeks, then there's no reason why he shouldn't win a big tour before long.
Well, the man in pink there is extremely consistent over 3 weeks. He was extremely insistent in the press last night that it was his 9th Grand Tour win. It's his 7th officially, but he's had 2 taken away for the Clenbuterol case in 2010, Tour de France that year, and of course the following Giro d'Italia. So officially it's his 2nd Giro d'Italia. Officially he's done it without winning any stages as well. He did it in 2008 and this year like that. As you see the results of the intermediate sprint with Gilbert, Richese and Berghardt. They're still out the front, but they have a gap of 44 seconds. Didn't look like the way we saw them. They wanted to try and stay out there, and that would sort of defeat the object for Philippe Gilbert, wouldn't it?
Well, I think he's done what he set out to do, just get the intermediate sprints, maximum points, and then just knock off the effort and wait for the peloton. That's what they're doing. We could see there they were riding up front. There was 3 of them just having a chat together, so they're just rolling along now, waiting to be pulled back by the main peloton.
Patrick Gretsch attacking and helping the man with the number 4, Axel Demont, on his back get out there as well. Interesting move from AG2R La Mondiale. Haven't really been big players or any sort of part players, hardly even bit part players in this Giro d'Italia. Of course, they lost their leader, Domenico Pozzovivo, to that very, very early crash, but we probably expected more from these guys throughout the 3 weeks.
Yes, well, I think when they lost their leader, Pozzoviva, that was a big hit to them, because I think he would have been definitely up there in the general classification. The way he's performing this year and of past, and the time trial, you know, Pozzoviva, we see in the Giros of past, he can put in a real good time trial for a tiny little guy, a real, you know, a real climber. The moment they lost him, well, then it was difficult for them. But Patrick Grech, we remember the other day, he made a big mistake when he was out with Adam Hansen in the very end, and Atapuma was with him. He started to play about. You know, that should have never happened. They should have just continued on. And I think if the two of them had, you know, joined up forces, really given it the effort, they could have went very close to the finish.
Well, we're seeing the procession sort of turn into a race now. Lampre, Astana get bodies on the front. ʻdʒiːro are attacking. Join us after this on the home of cycling. We're celebrating the end of the Giro d'Italia 2015. Procession to Milan. We've seen Ivan Basso leading people into his home region of Lombardy. Time at the back of the peloton for a few drinks. Time to have a chat with your mate or two. First attempts at a breakaway have just been going as well. Patrick Grech of ʻdʒiːro alongside Axel Daumont going. There's Kevin Reza in conversation with Kenny Elisande. Two Frenchmen riding for Française des Jeux, another team who would have hoped to have offered a bit more. I'm sure Reza will try and have a go at the sprint today. In the meantime, still Basso on the front. Not sure whether this is his final Giro d'Italia. I think he still does have a contract for next year. One man who had to climb off the Giro d'Italia yesterday was Alessandro Petacchi. His 14th Giro, just one day from Milan. He felt out of energy, he'd been ill, had to climb off before the end of the stage in Sestriere, and that's hard lines for the 41-year-old, isn't it? He'd done his best to get round, he'd been okay, he's actually been in the top 5 on a couple of sprints as well, Petacchi, but he's also said it might not be his last Giro at 41.
Well, it's disappointing when you get so far, you know, getting all the mountain stages over with and then having to, you know, pull out yesterday. At his age, at this point in his career, it's disappointing, and you know, it's very difficult to recover from it. And it'll be interesting to see, will he go on for another year? It's hard to see, but it could be certainly his last Giro.
What's that feeling when you get towards the end, when you're getting there? You just want to get the end. It's sort of a release of energy and a sort of relief as much as anything when you reach the finish stage, whatever you finish.
Well, I think you know, with Petacchi, we know the end is coming. It's been, you know, the last 2 years, I suppose he's getting prepared for it. It's a different situation. You know, if you're a younger rider and you don't get a contract renewed and you can't, you know, you can't continue. But for Petacchi, it's not the case. But when you get this far in the Giro, of course you want to finish, and it's very disappointing when you have to, you know, the penultimate stage, you have to, you know, throw in the towel.
Right, let's think about the sprint today. Here's Sacha Modolo before the stage. 2-stage wins in this Giro. Sacha, we're going to Milan today. It's the end of the Giro in Milano. What do you think? Yeah, I think the main thing to say is that it's the end of one of the hardest Giros of the last few years. It's fantastic for me to finish it, and I've had great results. And I'm looking for a third win. The team's brilliant. Ferrari's better from the fall he had 3 days ago. The train's working, the team's there, and of course the team's going to work for me today. You were talking to Max before. It looks as though you're really close and you've got a great bond. Yeah, the Ferrari, Ferro as I call him, and Max and everybody, we're all working together, we're pulling in the right direction. There's a great team spirit, but of course it all revolves around me, and I like having the pressure. Of course I can win, but it's a victory for everybody, and they can all feel it, and I think that, you know, even from Argentina, they're all phoning him up and getting and congratulating him on the results. A bit of road furniture to negotiate all the way through along the Padania Plain, as it's known. Plain between Turin and Milan. Very populous area of Italy, of course. And Tinkoff Saxo just in charge of everything so far as the team that has the maglia, also the pink jersey with it. The pink jersey that they fought and they've owned for most of the race, and that takes its toll on a team. And even Contador was acknowledging that it's been a bit of a war between Astana against Alberto. Have you seen it that way, or do you think Tinkoff Saxo have performed well enough as a team around Alberto?
Well, I think they have been a little bit weak in the final. We've seen it many times, you know, the mountain stages, they disappear very quickly. And of course, Astana being so strong, you know, there's so many riders up there in the final, and you know, when you're a race leader, you have to control the race. But I think Tinkoff Saxo, to me, they look to be controlling too much. They were, you know, not allowing breakaways to get a bit further out. You know, they were really killing the race, and I think they were paying for that in the end. And certainly, you know, yesterday again we did see where, you know, they had been riding all day. Then when they got to the, you know, the difficult time of the day, they disappeared very quickly, and we did see the consequence yesterday. You know, Contador on his own, mechanical problem yesterday. If Contador had a mechanical problem, well, it would have been a difficult one. Other cars were getting up pretty quickly, but again, you know, just for comfort, it's great to have a rider or two riders with you from the team when you are a race leader. And for me, that was a little bit of a weakness there in the team of Contador. And but again, you know, you have to look at the way they were riding. I was surprised some days the way they were controlling the breakaway, not allowing them to take the big advantage, because if you start riding, leave the breakaway, get to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, then there's always other teams that will start coming, they will start panicking. But if you control it, then they're going to say, well, you know, leave Tinkoff, leave Contador control with his team. He's keeping that at a gap which we can close down easy in the end.
Yeah, they were riding before they had the jersey for the first few days as if they did have it, and we've seen the opposite thing from Astana as well. Do you think they rode too hard, or do you think that they've ridden a fantastic race by the way that we saw them there every day, 3, 4, 5 riders towards the end? Astana riding even though they didn't have the jerseys if they did, and it was interesting to see that sort of big battle in numbers. It's something we haven't seen for a while, certainly to that extent.
Yes, well, I think Astana, you know, they definitely had a real strong team, and you know, there's so many riders going well in the difficult stages, the mountain stages, and it's, you know, a great advantage, but it's not good enough an advantage if you haven't somebody who can finish it off for you, and that was a problem with Astana. You know, Landa, he lost time in the time trial. He was coming from a long way back. Aru also, you know, a disappointing time trial, did suffer then. So if you haven't got a leader, a real, you know, a killer for the general classification, you can have as many riders you like in the end. When you're up against a Contador, you know, who was a real, you know, consistent rider. Up to yesterday was the first time we see any cracks, because he looked to be going to dominate the race totally in the second week, and yesterday was a surprise to a lot of people. But I was wondering about yesterday, you know, the way he finished. It was surprising to me that he was able to limit his losses so much, because he was riding against a group out front and they were not really totally organised, as Greg LeMond said. You know, Landa maybe should have been pulling back, but still, you know, Heidel and the other ones were always pushing on. Contador was losing very little. I'm not sure, was it a bit of bluff yesterday in that climb?
Welcome back, everybody. Astana bossing the team classification. They're going to be clear winners of that. Talked about their team dominance. 43 minutes is their margin of victory over BMC coming into the last stage. Diego Rosa there in conversation with the car, and it's been a very, very strong Giro d'Italia from them. Making our way through Lombardy now. We've come out of the province of Piemonte and heading towards the regional capital, Milan. We've had all sorts going on today. Pink dyed hair, pink Varte, gloves, pink pedals, even bits of pink wheel rims for Alberto Contador. It's certainly been a victory worthy of showing off. No stage wins for Alberto Contador, but a fantastic, fantastic control of the race. That man's had the honour of leading everybody through his home region so far, Ivan Basso. Just offering some biscuits around. Might be victory cake, you never know. I'm sure the Team Sky and Tinkoff chefs have been doing their best to produce all sorts of different things. Let's go and hear from the Team Sky sprinter though. Here's Elia Viviani.
Elia Viviani, cosa significa oggi? Finestre Giro.
Well, what does it mean today?
A Milano.
get to Milan and at the end of the Giro. It's a real satisfaction to finish the Giro d'Italia in Milan. It's been great to win a stage. Today's a really important stage because we want to try and take the red jersey. It's a prestigious finish line. So we're going to go and really try and win another stage at the Giro. There's a great battle between ddʒiːro, Modolo, Let's go to the last one. Yeah, the points are going to be really important. Of course, the points jersey is something that we want to all go for. It's going to be an organised sprint, I think. But we'll see if the intermediate sprints are important as well. I'm not sure about that. I didn't seem so sure about the intermediate sprints. And we saw that in evidence, really, with Sky not bothering with the first one. Once everybody's on the circuit, though, the racing on and the trains take over from Tinkoff Saxo's little victory procession here, it might be a little different because 21.6Ks from the finish, if there's points available, without too much effort, Sean, before the end, I'm sure people will not pass up the chance to take them.
Well, I don't know if the big sprinters will have a go, but you'd never know. You just have to be careful. If you're up there in that points jersey classification, you just have to watch the other ones and not allow them to take, you know, big number of points when the top places are going, when they're up for grabs. But it's all about the sprint in the end, and I think they will be trying to, you know, keep everything for that and just try and get stage victory first of all, and then the points come with that, of course. And Philippe Gilbert going here, a bit interesting the next one now to see what way he can play it about, because he's going to try and get maximum points here, but it's not going to be as easy to get out of the peloton the second time round, especially when you're on the finishing circuit, because the race will be on at that point.
Oh, we just saw Rigoberto Urán there taking his musette. We saw Alberto Contador extending those three fingers to the camera again. He's convinced he's won 3 Giro d'Italia. Alberto, take your slap on the wrist and get on with it. He has been fantastic in this Giro d'Italia, but he, of course, will not accept the decision to take those 2 Grand Tours away from him. Rigoberto Urán at this Grand Tour has struggled. 28 years of age. Back to the drawing board for him, and he's finishing stronger. We saw him good yesterday, very combative and completely lacking in consistency in performance, or on the flat or in the mountains. Time trial was pretty poor from him as well. He had his crashes, he had his bronchitis. It's just been a disaster for 3 weeks for a run, hasn't it?
Yes, well, it's all been a disaster, and you know, the end result is a bit of a disaster for him. You know, you would expect him to be certainly on the podium, considering, you know, the past performance they've had here. But when you look into it, you know, much more detail, he's had his problems here, bronchitis, that doesn't help, and then he had that crash. You know, it all adds up, and he just wasn't going in the time trial at all. We could see he wasn't in his place, and after that as well, he suffered in the mountain stages. But of the last days, he seems to be recovering a bit. Yesterday, I thought he was going to challenge Aru for the stage, but just wasn't good enough in the final 2 kilometres.
Elia Viviani, big one for him today. Sky will obviously be disappointed with everything that happened with Richie Porte. It was a complete disaster for them, really, starting with the time penalty, then the crash and the injuries that Porte suffered. He'd been looking pretty good in the first week, although a little disappointed with the team time trial. It was certainly a good effort from them, but 20 seconds or so that he didn't want to drop. Until then, Porte looking good. All the increased pressure from the motorhome. Sky had a big noise made around them with the press. But I think that overall, with Leopold Koenig in 6th place, a couple of stage wins as well, it's been a good Giro for Sky, hasn't it?
Well, I don't know if you call it a good Giro. They'd be expecting more. They would be expected to be on the podium, and that would be with Richie Porte, of course. But you know, all the problems that Richie Porte had, he didn't get the opportunity to go on. And you know, we're not going to know now. Was he good enough to challenge for, you know, the overall? Was he good enough to challenge to get on the top 3 steps of the podium, because of all the problems he've had? But we didn't see that, and he didn't get the opportunity either to go on and try it. But when you look at it, you know, he seemed to be on days there he was suffering a little bit. But yeah, that's bike racing. You know, you can be in a real good position, suddenly a crash, you find yourself, you know, in a position where you lose time, and yeah. That was the way for Porte. Just, you know, it went on from from one thing to the other one, and you know, he just that final crash that he came down with Contador, that was a really killer for him. He seemed to lose the morale there. He just totally rolled into the finish, and not surprising, because you know, you can take so much of it, and then when you get to a point, you just lose it.
Go through Magenta, which is an important town in the history of the unification of Italy. It's easy to forget, actually, Italy is such a young country. Just over 150 years unified. Many places in the Mediterranean, it was all kingdoms and regions until then. King of Naples in the south, of course. Genovese Empire, the Tuscans as well, the Venetians. And we're in Lombardy at the minute. Next time we'll be around this area. Real competitive racing up by the end of the year when the leaves are falling. But it's all about the pink for the moment. And a pink party about to start on Corso Sempione in Milan. That's the end of a hard 3 weeks for those guys as well. On the motorbikes. Coffee and cigarette stop, it looked like for me, that. Plenty of them along the way. Two teams that have had two good leaders that we've seen, Lotto Enel Jumbo, Cannondale Garmin. Cannondale Garmin taking their early win with Davide Formolo, but we've seen Stephen Kruijswijk up there. And of course, the man for Cannondale Garmin has been Ryder Haystyle into the top 5 with some fantastic, fantastic rising. 71 Ks to go. We're on our way to Milan on the last day. Lunchtime in the peloton. Cheng Ji not having to do any breakaway killing for the minute. Positive image of everybody having a party. Some free bidons for fans as well. The collectors are out in force. And it's the kind of day for that. The riders with a little bit of a time to enjoy things, have a chat. Jokes going on between all the soigneurs who've been standing together at different points on the road in rain and shine across the length and breadth of Italy. We know much longer than it is wide, the Italian peninsula. Oh, looking forward to getting your views on what's been a fantastic Giro d'Italia so far. Hashtag home of cycling for all your views, please. What you think might happen, what has happened, and what is to come at the Tour de France. First little look towards the Tour for you, Sean. Of course, you'll be there. Colton Kirby will be back here on Eurosport, and we'll have Greg LeMond at the finish line. Alberto Contador, can he do that double?
Well, if you look at the way he's performing in this Giro, I think he's definitely very much up there for it. It's all about now recovery and 2 big tours. You know, you just never know what way it will affect her either. But Contador, for me, I think he is going to be one of the ones to be fighting out for the overall classification this year. In this Giro, he has been magnificent. You know, he back to where he was a number of years ago in the mountains. The time trialing really good, and that's what you need to be able to challenge for a big tour. But it will all depend on his recovery.
Who are his opponents going to be? We're thinking Froome and Nibali, Quintana.
Yes, I think they're all in there. Depending on the weather situation as well, of course. You know, this year we're starting off in Holland. If you have unpleasant weather in the earlier days, that can have a big bearing. We have a cobble section, which is another, one for some of the riders will be a concern more than others. You consider all of that. So I think the general classification men, as you mentioned, including Contador, they will be just looking at the start of the tour, get the first couple of days over, take it day by day, and if you get the first 5 or 6 days out of the way and you're in there, really in a good position in the general classification, all of those guys I think are in with a fight to try and take the top place in Paris.
CCC Sprandi Polkovic, I think we expected more from this team at the Giro d'Italia. Sylvester Schmidt, with all of his experience, perhaps one Grand Tour too far for him, not really shown any good form whatsoever. And Maciej Paterski has struggled as well to impose himself on the stages like I'm sure he planned to do. Gregor Balder's been up there with the odd finish, a little disappointing from the Polish team. Łukasz Owsian finishing down there as well. Nikolai Mihailov's been in a few breaks. Let's go back and have a look at yesterday's stage. Let's go on board with a couple of the riders.
Yeah, baby!
all good. Giro's nearly over, mate.
Really high. How do you need that? One more dance. One more dance.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it. And we said yesterday that in the gruppetto it might be a bit more of a relaxed atmosphere. There wasn't too much of a killing to make the time limit because everything had gone so late on that last climb. The penultimate climb, pardon me, I should say. And some fantastic, fantastic images. We can see Race Radio having their little chat with a few people. See all the numbers and the sheet of everybody highlighted out there in front. And you get everything called out to the teams and the broadcasters. First Italian, used to be French, I think it's now English as well actually. But some brilliant images there, Sean. It reminds me of the photos we had last year at the World Tour, and Adam Hansen, who by the way we should congratulate on finishing yet another Grand Tour. He's aiming for the record I think at the end of next season. But we saw him having a beer on the Angliru in the north of Spain. He had a big red wig on, and you can see Fumi Beppu there shouting, yeah, party time, and I know that you were at the pointy end of most races you raced in your career, but it has to be a fantastic atmosphere on that mountain once the original race had gone by yesterday.
Well, you could see they were quite relaxed on the penultimate mountain, the Col de Finisterre. They knew that for the time limit that they were well into the stage, and that is a great relief for them. When you have to do 150 kilometres on the flat, well then, the time limit, it's a big one, and when you have the climbs in the end was no problem, and the riders were very relaxed. And it's a great way to be, and we could see the riders there. They're on the climb. The ones that were following, I think it was Gazzetta we see there. He was just pedalling way up it, and they were not under any pressure at all to try and push on to make a time limit.
So Swiss Tony, perhaps the final sighting of him of this Giro d'Italia on his phone, fixing up the latest second-hand car deal. Maybe another sponsor to put on his jersey next year. I think you could fit any more on there. Androni Giocattoli does a great job every year, though, filling that jersey up with sponsors. One of the more peculiar anecdotes from yesterday came from this team, actually. Came from Trek Factory Racing. Last night, there was a picture that went viral on Twitter. That's Fabio Fellini, but I'm talking about Marco Colledan. Picture of him stood on the side of the road, leant up against the advertising hoardings, waiting to make sure he'd be the last man to come across the line inside the time limit. That's because he wanted to finish last in the Giro d'Italia. Years ago we had the maglia nera, the black jersey for the last guy in the Giro d'Italia, and rather like the lanterne rouge in the Tour de France, it's become very, very prestigious. Prestigious for finishing last. I know, we're a funny lot. It's a strange sport, isn't it, cycling? Which other sport can you ever think of that has a competition to finish last? It's brilliant. I actually heard a few rumours that Pinarello were trying to bring back the black jersey for this Giro d'Italia, but of course the UCI limits you to 4 different jerseys, 4 different leaders' jerseys at any one time, so that wasn't a possibility. But UCI, the nasty police, they've been back. I know they copped a lot of stick for the penalty to Richie Porte, but last night, 500 Swiss francs to Marco Colledan for, I quote, Rule 1.2081, riders shall sportingly defend their own chances. Any collusion or behaviour likely to falsify or go against the interests of the competition shall be forbidden. And we were joking about 200 Swiss francs early on, but 500 Swiss francs is rather more expensive, isn't it? It's a big price to pay to finish last.
It's an expensive one, and the problem is Colledan, he stopped, just before the line. You could see him just waiting there at the barrier. It wasn't the way to do it. He should have just, took it easy on the climb. And if you stop on the climb somewhere with spectators, you can say you have a problem, you can say you have a cramp, you can say you have some problem. But where he was just on the line there, and you could see him in the shots. Of course, if Commissaire were going to hit him hard, and they did hit big time.
Should have joined his fan club barbecue on the way up to Sestria. Next time he knows how to do it better. Killjoys at the UCI. 62 kilometres from the finish, heading to a circuit today has a worrying little bit of a tram line around 150 metres from the finish. Touch wood, cross your fingers, whatever you have to do for no crashes today. Giovanni Visconti in the blue jersey, King of the Mountains. That's one that won't change. You see Viken in there as well, the Finnish champion. A nice, relaxing, chilled out day so far, but the racing will begin soon. Three hours of racing on this final stage of the Giro d'Italia. Even the doctors are getting their moment on the camera. It's that sort of atmosphere around the race today. End of 3 very, very long weeks. Can't remember a day where we haven't had anything happen, Sean. It has been quite a unique Grand Tour in that aspect. We usually have 1 or 2 down days, but I really can't remember a Grand Tour like it.
No, it's been an exciting race right from the beginning. Every day the stages were expected to be a bit of a promenade. It didn't turn out that way, and I think a lot of the riders would have been not too happy on some of the days the way they did race. They were probably looking at the road book, and you look at a mountain stage, and then you'd say, well, the following day will probably be an easy day. They leave a break earlier on, but it just never happened. There was always some teams wanted to chase, and it just turned out to be just a very, very fast race. And we've been asking the question, we've been hearing the question being asked. It was the most difficult one. Some say yes, it's Modulo said it was a really difficult race. Contador did not agree. He said there was more difficult ones in the past, but it's certainly been a very aggressive race right through mountain stages and the flat stages. That's where the surprise is, that the way they raced every day on the flat, they seem to be some teams wanted to chase.
Some teams wanted to chase. Do you have a favourite day so far on this Giro d'Italia? Favourite day for all the drama?
Well, there's so many great days. It's difficult to pick out A1. It started out real aggressive racing from the start, and when that happens, sometimes it just goes on in races, and that's the situation here. It just went on from the first number of days. It went all 3 weeks of racing every day. It had been really aggressive, and when you look at the number of breakaways that managed to get to the finish, it's very, very few, and that tells us there was always fast racing behind, because the break, of course, when they get 6 or 8 or 10 riders, when they get up front, guys who are a long way down the general classification, they are going to ride. When you're in the break, well, that's a big achievement. Then they will ride on and try and hold on, and they were just never allowed to take that big advantage where you would be expecting, because of being a long way down the general classification.
Well, 163 riders will get to Milan from the 198 that started. We talked about Alberto Contador, where he goes from here, Tour de France, and I've got a sneaky feeling that there might be a third one thrown into the mix, or at least a third attempt by his boss. He might not have much of a choice if he wins the Tour here. I have a feeling that Uncle Oleg's going to push him towards the World Tour as well, but we'll see. Fabio Aru, we know that he's got plenty to improve upon, and his improvement has been very, very good in itself in this Giro d'Italia. What about the third place? At 3 minutes and 14, we've had Mikel Landa. Where do we see him going?
Well, I think he's been the surprise of the Tour. When you look at the start of this race, nobody talked about Landa, of course, and if you had been to the bookies, you could have made a good few quid here, but he's had a fabulous race. And yeah, the interesting one now is, will he stay? Will he move on to another team? He is just 25 at the moment. He'll be 26 in December. There's still time there to do some good performances in a big 3-week tour. That's certainly not going to be a problem. It all depends on what his movements will be. Will he change team, or will he stay with Astana? That is something we'll be hearing about over the next number of weeks, months.
Very, very hard to see him staying at Astana with the likes of Nibali already there. Aru there as a second leader as well. The Italian core of the team. It's really, really difficult to see, but we'll see what develops over the next few months, as Sean was saying. Andrea Amador down in 4th place. Costa Rican cycling has a new star. He was already the only man, really, from Costa Rica to make it to this level, but will he be looking at himself, maybe taking a chance? Is 4th place in a Grand Tour enough of a discovery for him for another team to say, hang on a minute, I'd quite like this guy to be my leader?
Well, I'm not sure if he will get an idea of trying to get on the podium and win a big tour. I think he's a little bit too far off, and this one, he has really put in a great performance, because to finish 4th, what a performance from a rider like Amador. You would, at the start of this Giro, you would say Movistar, he will probably go for a stage victory, and then he'll be the other days at the service of some of the better riders, the better climbers. But an amazing performance from him. But when you look at Movistar, of course, the riders they have for the general classification, I think he would just go back and be there as a helper in the team, and try and pick off stages in the big 3-week tours where he get the occasion to ride for his own.
Yeah, really interesting one. I know they're really, really happy with everything he's done. Now, Giacomo Nizzolo going back to the medical car here. Maybe he's having trouble with any allergies or anything like that. Obviously something. Can't see any signs of him having fallen or anything like that. I haven't seen any crashes, and have a crash today in this possession, that really would be a silly crash. He's just going to get a paracetamol or an antihistamine or something surely here. Some sort of pill, something he's not happy with. Giacomo Nizzolo going back to the medical car, but back in the race now. And he'll want to be right for this sprint finish. One of the sprinters who hasn't won a stage yet. He's been very regular by virtue of that. He's ended up in the red jersey. But of course, points jersey, you really want to win a stage if you win that jersey as well, don't you?
Yes, again, when you win the points jersey, you want to win a stage, and he's been so close. He's been up there on a number of occasions, and this one today, if you could win a stage with the points jersey on your shoulders, well, then it would be a perfect ending for him.
Thanks to @BySpoke on Twitter for writing in, saying the best day on the Giro for her was the Mortirolo. Just a fantastic ride, underlying both Contador's physical and mental strength. M @Green and Gold for me says day 3 was my favourite. @Bling Matthews in pink, winning the stage, the home of cycling down under in Australia. And a thank you to everybody down under who stayed up very late into the night to watch us and join us on the Giro d'Italia. An effort for everybody. I think your bosses will all be happy when you're turning up with a little more of a fresh look in the morning for work. As a wave to the camera. Winner of the last stage last year was Luka Mezgec, right on the border with his home country in Slovenia. Hasn't managed to win this time though.
Luka, you had a little crash a couple of days ago. How are you?
I'm good. It was a stupid crash, but I'm luckily okay, so I'm prepared for today.
And what sort of train have you got today? You've got Niki Assange, you've got Chad Haga. How's it going to pan out on that tight little circuit?
Yeah, we have a good train here, good to control the race, and also Berde Bakker, like road captain, so I trust him, and I hope they can deliver me on a good position in the final kilometers.
You won a year ago, big ambitions to today. How good would it be to win in Milan today?
Oh, it would unbelievable, and I really hope I can do it again.
So Luka Mezgec's hope is there, and with a stage win today, they could really save the Giro for Jan Alpecin, couldn't they? Because they've had nothing so far.
No, a very disappointing Giro, and if you can win a stage, well then that makes up for everything, and it's such a fine one. When you have a sprinter in there today, you have a chance, but there's only going to be one winner, and we have quite a few sprinters there. But as you said, if Mezgec can win, well then for a team like Giant, it just makes the Giro.
That's what they came looking for, stage win. They haven't had to manage it in the medium mountains. They've got a full team of 9 left. Talking of full teams of 9, they've bossed the team classification Astana, 43 minutes ahead of BMC. Fabio Aru in good conversation with Diego Rosa, the man he's very, very close to in the team. Doesn't room with him, he's actually been rooming with André Zeitz. Zeitz, who he was praising for his ability at speaking Italian. It's funny, it is a Kazakh team, but the language of the team does seem to be Italian. All those organising things, still got a couple of hours organising still to do. We're not far from Milan now. Tinkoff Saxo and Ivan Basso enjoying a ride at the front today. Is this a goodbye from Ivan Basso? That's the question. He's had a decent last few days in his role as a domestique, but over the 3 weeks you said that the team have been perhaps a little weaker than you expected, Sean. Basso, one of those riders you expected to be a little stronger here this year?
Well, I was expecting Basso to be more in the end of the stages, but I think he was one of the ones who was given the job to work early, and there's a reason for that. He just wasn't good enough in the climbs in the end, and you know, they knew that and he knew that, and we could see yesterday there he was trying to boss the peloton in the earlier part of the penultimate climb. But Astana weren't having it. They wanted to push on because they wanted to, you know, make the race difficult for everybody, get Contador isolated from all his teammates, and Basso just, you know, he disappeared very quickly. The moment the pace was up a bit, he went out of that leading group rapidly.
Andrei Giocattoli looked like they're very close to taking the most points in a breakaway, but I don't think they're going to manage it in the end. That prize is going to go to Bardiani and Nicola Bohem. 540 kilometres in a breakaway, Sean. That is 60 kilometres more than Marco Bandiera, and with just over 60 kilometres to go, it's not really going to happen, is it?
No, I don't think there's anything going to change in that classement today. You could write that script before the start, and you know, that's all done. And if you look back at the records, I think that that amount of kilometres out in front, it's a strong one, but I'm not sure if it's the best. I think other years there was riders who did a lot more because the breakaways were allowed out a bit easier.
BMC Racing's Greg van Avermaet solo to win the final stage of the Belgium Tour, and he's taken the race overall. So a good day for BMC and a good day for Greg van Avermaet. Tinkoff Sachs on the front of the peloton. Well, talking about the teams as well, we're going to see I think the A teams of the main three here, Tinkoff, Astana and Sky, you could probably include Movistar in that, given the fact that they've statistically been the best team in the world for the last couple of seasons on the UCI rankings. When we get to the Tour, all behind their contenders. For Astana, you're going to see the likes of Fulsang come back, Scarponi as well. For Sky, you're going to get the top domestics back too. Movistar, you're going to have Valverde working for Quintana. You probably have Castroviejo for the team time trial as well. And in Tinkoff, you're looking at a stronger team too, perhaps with the likes of Jesus Hernandez, who's traditionally been the right-hand man for Alberto Contador. So if this has been good, we can expect bigger and better in July, can't we?
Well, you would be expecting better from the teams, because for the Giro, you know, they don't have maybe the best roster, but it doesn't always work like that. You know, if you look at it on paper, you could say all of those teams, they probably have stronger riders who are not here, but there's no guarantee they're going to perform as well as, you know, Astana has been performing here. Some of the riders, they have been exceptional. And it will be all about the selection in the next number of weeks. You know, the teams will be looking at what the other guys are doing when they go to the Dauphiné, when they go to Tour of Switzerland. They will also look at this Giro, the way the guys have performed, and then the selection for the Tour. And that's always a little bit of a battle as well internally in the team. Riders, you know, that want to go for the Tour. Some of the riders here, of course, they will be, you know, doing Giro, and then the next one is the Vuelta for them. But there's a few in the big teams here who will want to go to the Tour as well. And sometimes, you know, there's no guarantee you're going to be selected if you're not performing well.
I think Mick Rogers for Tinkoff is certainly a nailed-on selection for the Tour de France. He's hardly ridden prior to the Giro. In Sky, well, most of that group are already at altitude and Mount Teide in Tenerife. The likes of Geraint Thomas is up there. Luke Rose there as well. I know that Pete Kenya, the current British champion, is hoping to make the Tour. Difficult team to make though, given the form of everybody early season. Kevin Reza there at the back alongside Sergei Lagoutin. Sergio Paulinho on the left-hand side, and that's Manuel Ebuaro just in front of Alberto Contador. If you're looking for a man who has been strong for Tinkoff, no doubt, you mentioned maybe Mick Rogers earlier, what about Matteo Tosato? Some riding he's done on the front at 41 years of age, eh?
Yes, well, when you look at the Tinkoff Saxo, you know, there's a number of riders in there you would expect him to be in the Tour. Tosato, I think, is a one. You know, he probably will be, you know, going for the Tour, going in the Tour with Contador. Paulino, we know he's a very, you know, good domestique. He's always a solid one. You know, you can rely on him. He's going to be consistent. So, and then, you know, Kruisinger, Rogers. So there's a lot of riders there in the Tinkoff team. I think we will see in July in the Tour de France.
Calvin Watson, first Giro d'Italia. Looks as though he's going to finish it as well. Has a mechanical problem first though. best day of the Giro to have that problem today. Not too much running and racing to get on at the minute. He's going to get his back wheel out ready and he'll get on in time for the fun and games of the Milan circuit. Nice quick reaction too from the mechanic. And Calvin Watson's back on his way. No problems about drafting in the team cars today, I don't think either. In the meantime, that's something we didn't need to see. Marco Fraport in his natural break.
Has to be done.
They could have waited till he got in the woods there. 51.6 kilometres to go. Different attitudes and different atmospheres and different teams today as well. Those without sprinters will be just enjoying the ride, won't they? You might see the odd attack on the final circuit just to try and make a name for yourself, but this is the only part of the day really when, if you're in a sprinters team, you really do have to switch on and get back into race mode after what's been a bit of a demob happy day until now.
Yes, well, you know, different objectives within teams, and the teams have a sprinter, of course. They will be up for today. The general classification men and their team as well, they'll be staying out of danger on the circuit, stay as close to the front of the peloton as possible, try and boss the front of the peloton for as long as possible. That's what we will see Tinkoff, Saxo doing, and Astan and the other teams who have been up there in the top places. But there's teams there who, you know, have no sprinter, and if you have anything left, you try and go in and attack and get, you know, 10 seconds or 50 seconds of air time, but if you haven't got, you know, something on here, it's difficult to motivate yourself and really be up front.
Francesco Manuel Bongiorno at the back there. There's Marco Colledan on the right hand side, having a chat with the medical car. Maybe he needs a pill for the headache he'll have got when he's seen that fine that was slapped on him overnight. 500 Swiss francs. Still Tinkoff at the front, Astana just behind, as we've been throughout this Giro d'Italia so far. Canon Gail Garmin on the right hand side. Heinrich Hauser in the Australian Champions jersey. He said he's felt better as the Giro's gone on, but that it's been the hardest race that he's ever ridden. He said between this and the Tour de France there is no contest in terms of what is harder. And of course it's harder for different riders in different ways as well, isn't it? I mean, if you're a climber, you'd much prefer to ride the Giro, wouldn't you?
Well, if you're a climber, you know, it's a bit easier on the stages we've had in the past week because we have so many, you know, mountainous days. But it all depends about the form as well. If you're really good form, a rider like Hausler, you know, he can get through the mountains. He's a pretty good climber, but not, you know, a one that can be up there in the final like of a stage yesterday. But he still has, you know, that class to get around in the Gruppetto without any problem normally, and then have a go on other days. But we haven't seen a lot of Hausler. He's not performed, I think, maybe as well as he would like to, and haven't been in the shake-ups on very, very critical moments. But yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes, you know, the rider. He's been around for a long time, and yeah, I think his best years, maybe we've seen him already.
Well, the sponsors getting their moment, showing off the jerseys at the finish line there. So they have their unique way of doing things in Italy. Inside 50k's to go. And we're approaching the city of Milan. 7 laps of that 5.4 kilometre circuit. It's a circuit that goes around the old historical Vigarelli Velodrome. 8 curves, 4 semi-curves along the circuit as well. And at the end it'll be a sprinter's party, but who will take the win? That's the question. You see on the right hand side the VIPs are all in the boxes ready. Crowds along the barriers. There's a great atmosphere at the finish line in Milan. And on the left, heading through the old fair and heading past the brand new Expo 2015, scheduled to run already from May the 1st till October the 31st. In fact, it was the thing that caused the huge riots we had in Milan just a few weeks ago, in fact. A few people unhappy at the amount of money, public money, that has been spent there. But it's going to be on all year. And if you fancy visiting the Expo Milan, Expo 2015 runs until the end of October. As you can see, it's all based on food. Feeding the planet, energy for life is the official slogan. Technology, innovation, culture, customs, creativity, and everything they have to do with how the world works. That's Expo 2015, just on the experts and the outskirts of Milan, pardon me. Back to the racing, and it's Mick Rogers on the front, the Australian. Ivan Basso just behind him in the Tinkoff jersey as well. Chris Juul Jensen there, he's ridden a good enough race. Front of the peloton, waiting for the sprinters teams to wake up. And into a Milan that's had a pretty much a very changing face in the last few years. A couple of big new buildings have sprung up. The new local and regional authority building that's absolutely huge, a big skyscraper next to the central train station that's also had a bit of a facelift. If you haven't been for a while, get along. It looks very much different. Still got the traditional trams. There's an element of that we're a bit worried about getting towards the end. A couple of tram tracks around 150 metres from the line. And when you're sprinting along them, hopefully everybody's going to hit them at the right angle. There was Sylvester Schmidt, the Polish rider, at the back. Many Giro d'Italia ridden for Italian leaders. This time he's tried to lead the Polish team on his own. It hasn't really worked for him. We're off for a quick break. We'll be back with the finale after this. Bentornati, welcome back. 45 kilometres to go. Tinkoff Saxo still on the front, and still having a party for their pink-clad Alberto Contador. 7th Grand Tour win for the 32-year-old. 9, if you count those, like he does, that were taken away from him after the clenbuterol positive of 2010. A bit of a bone of contention. Some in the Spanish press choosing to go with 9, some choosing to go with 7. It's difficult if you want him to talk to you again. There's Luca Paolini on the back. 171, another Giro finish for him. Of course, had to wait until towards the end of his career to try and get a Giro start. Oh, that's the man himself, Mauro Vegni. Subject of much fun poking in the Italian press. He's got a really thick southern accent. Makes him sound a bit like a mafia boss from the south of Italy. There's a fake Twitter account actually that goes around that pokes fun at him, and he gets involved actually. He's quite funny. This man gets involved with it as well. Luca Paolini, Il Gerva on Twitter. One of the more active riders. Looks as though he's had a haircut as well for this. He'll be trying to get Alexander Porsev in for a sprint today. Who's going to win today? I'd love to hear from you on Twitter. Thanks for all your messages so far. Hashtag home of cycling. Are we looking at Viviani for Sky? Are we looking at ʻdʒiːro to stay in red? Can't model or make it 3? Plenty more candidates as well. But we've been worried about this, and thanks to the brilliant Mikel Conde on Twitter for pointing it out. This awaits the riders with 150 metres to go. 65 kilometres per hour or more, in fact. Hashtag insane. Hashtag Giro. Well, those two hashtags often go together. The Giro is often insane. The Giro is often inhumane. But Sean, today, is that safe enough?
Well, I think it could be made safer, as you can see there. Luckily it's dry for the moment, and it seems like it's going to stay that way, but it is not nice there at all. And yeah, when you look at this finish, so close to the finish, having this is a little bit of a danger. Increase the risks a bit more. With the dry conditions it should be okay, but you know, they could have put something over, maybe covered it over with, you know, a bit of tar macadam and made it that bit safer, because it's not a nice one. And you know, if you make a movement here, if you have wet conditions and there's a bit of movement in the sprint, we could see problems there, but with the dry conditions it should be okay.
Coming into Milan and seeing those things always reminds me of 2009 and that awful long drawn out protest stage we had, and say his name quietly, but Lance Armstrong was involved. Remember, he came to the front, talked to the cars, went back to talk to Angelo Zomignan, and he was acting as the safety officer that day, and they didn't want to race. It was a very dangerous course, a city circuit around Milan. There was cobbles, there was tram lines. It really was dangerous on that day, if I remember rightly.
Yes, and there was a lot of cars also parked on the circuit, and for that reason they did not want to race, and they called a strike, the riders as such, and Armstrong got a lot of stick because of that, because you know the organisation said he was the one that came up with the idea. But I think there was a lot of the riders, the leaders of the bigger teams. I think they got together and they realised that it was a little bit unsafe to go racing, and you need that because when it happens, well then it's too late. So the riders are the ones who they're on their bikes, they know what a circuit is like, and sometimes, of course, yes, maybe we don't agree with it, they kind of pull a strike when it's not really necessary, but safety is always such an important one in bike racing. When you imagine you're going at 55, 60 kilometers per hour, you don't want any danger points, and vehicles on the roadside as well, parked in the wrong areas, that becomes real dangerous.
It certainly does. And of course, what's very easy to get when we're sat here in the commentary box or everybody's sat on the sofa at home is that these guys are putting their lives at risk. Of course, entertainment's one thing. You don't really want to risk things. It's a dangerous sport enough as it is. We hope it's going to be safe today, though. And it looks as though there are a few people getting ready to race. Bit of movement in the bunch. 42.1 kilometres to go. And I wonder what's going to happen with the sprint teams today, because there are going to be some really tired legs after the mountains after the last few days. Everybody's thinking, okay, one more effort, let's get our guy into position and hope he finishes the job for us. But it's going to be interesting to see how long we have to wait for the sprint teams to take this up at the front, because Tinkoff Saxo, yes, they're going to ride. They want to keep Alberto Contador there safe in the pink jersey. But you expect after a certain point that the sprint teams, or at least one sprint team, is going to have to take control. And of course, everybody wants to save as much energy as possible. It's a bit of who blinks first, isn't it?
Well, I think they'll be trying to hold off as long as possible, because a lot of riders tired, a lot of teams as well with riders gone home already. So and you have to look at the teams. Some riders not capable of staying up front here. So there could be maybe only 2 or 3 riders with a sprinter from the team capable of holding up in the front in the final 3 or 4 laps, and the race leaders team, they will control, and then Tinkoff will ride a good strong pace, and I think they will be allowed to ride it for a long time. It's only the last 2-3 laps that we will see the sprinters teams coming to the front, and everybody is tired at this moment, so I'll not be as nervous as certainly in the first week of racing. And when you look at the stages, will it be another Italian victory today? Because the Italians have done real well. They've got 9 stage victories in this, so it's almost half of the stages overall in the race. 21 stages. If they can win today, make it 10 stages, what a performance that will be for the Italian riders.
Well, it's the last day of the football season in Italy as well today, and there's a competition for the front page of the sports newspapers, I think, tomorrow. I think Contador will have a big photo in a corner somewhere. The title in the football's already won. So if an Italian rider can win the stage, there's a big front page of the Gazzetta dello Sport waiting for you. A big front page. I wonder if Modolo can make it 3. There's Ulisse, who won 1 stage for Lampre. Lampre already has 4 stage wins, and talking of teams, they're up there with Astana winning those stages as well. Landa getting a couple, Aru getting a couple, and of course let's not forget Paolo Tiralongo's won the 9th stage. Astana, yes, they're a Kazakh team, but they're run by Italians mostly. A lot of Italian riders. Press here, a lot of them treat them as if they were their own. '85 Giro stage finishes, as you can see, most of the times as the final stage of the Giro d'Italia. That's how we head on this 98th edition of the Giro. 40 kilometres remain, no break. We're heading though for a sprint finish. And we're in Milan. Finally, we started all the way on the Ligurian coast, and this is a first look at the final kilometre of the Giro d'Italia. 7 laps once we're across the line here of 5.4 kilometres. Tinkoff Saxo leading everybody across, and you can see behind already discussions going on about how things will go, who will take it up, and the race we're going to see will be intense, no doubt about that. Sky Soigneurs on the left hand side, and look, all the cameras are ready. Twitter and Facebook, everything will be lit up with photos from the Giro today. Let's just keep the selfie people away. We don't want any more accidents. No more big camera lenses either, please. We've had enough problems with those in the Giro d'Italia. There you can see it, 7 laps to go, that big number 7. Riders will not know exactly what's going to happen. First of all, we're going to see the riders cross the line with the pink jersey. Welcome back to our British viewers as we get a little first look at those tram lines and the cobbles. Just 150 metres to go, 7 laps to go now. We're in Milan. The pink jersey of Alberto Contador and the team of Tinkoff Saxo lead us over the line. 7 laps to go, 5.4 Ks each. And Sean Kelly, this is where today's race begins, really.
Yes, well, it's been a promenade, you know, right to this point, and it's going to continue on for another bit. We can see that Tinkoff are just going to control, and the pace will start upping as we go around the laps here. We can see there, you know, that finish. It is going to be a technical one because there is quite a lot of corners on quite a short circuit. So, good thing is dry conditions here. That's going to make it a bit safer. But that final corner, that final little bit of cobbles there, there'll be a little bit concern for everybody to get through that safely.
One man who knows about organising things at the end of sprints is Bernie Eisel, Sky's road captain. We spoke to him before the start of the stage today.
Bernie Eisel, the brain of Sky, especially for the lead-out train today, with Elia Viviani so close on the point jersey. How do you see the other team's trains today?
The good thing is, like in the train, you don't really need a brain. Sprinters don't have much brain. Now definitely it's last day. Everybody will go for all in. We will see Giant Alpecin up there. They haven't won a stage yet. Maskett's won last year, the last stage in Trieste, so he's definitely up for. Nizzolo wants to defend his red jersey. Modolo definitely is the man to beat at the moment, and we are lucky to have Elia Viviani in our team, and he's definitely motivated. He won the first sprint stage and probably can pull off the last one too.
Bernie, I don't know how many Grand Tours you've finished already, but this probably will remember.
Oh yeah, definitely. it's like every Grand Tour. It's like when you look back now, we started in San Remo 3 weeks ago with a team time trial. We can't even remember. It's like a different race, a different year, and we went through some pain and mountains here. But at the end, it was a beautiful Giro, and I have to say, some little things weren't all right, like lighting in the tunnel, but the rest was super organized, and yeah, I'm really happy it's over, and let's finish off last day.
Thanks, congratulations for another Grand Tour, Bernie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
17 Grand Tours Bernie Eisel's been at. Not a bad record. Latest this 2015 Giro d'Italia. He rode the Giro and the Tour for the last couple of years. He's a very experienced man to have in charge today. What sort of job does the likes of Bernie Eisel, the rest of the road captains, those who are going to organise the sprint trains, have today, Sean?
Well, I think Bernie Eisel is the one who can be very important for Viviani, just to keep him there in contention in that final laps. Will he be good enough to give him a lead out? It's very difficult when you look at Sky. You know, they haven't a lot of riders who are going to be capable of staying up in the very final. So I think Bernie Eisel's job will be just keep him in there in the top 15, 20, and then when we get to the final sprint, Viviani is just going to have to try and follow the other big sprinters, and that's what we've been seeing in this race a number of times. You know, he just hovers around. He's a trackie, so you know he's able to do that quite well. But yeah, it makes it a bit more difficult if you have a big train, a lead out, and you know, when you look at Modolo, his lead out in Lampre Merida, it's been perfect on the stages they've won, and if they can repeat that, well then, you know, Modolo is the one who, you know, it's going to be difficult to see him beaten.
The changing skyline of Milan. The outskirts, it is a rather huge, populous area. In fact, all this area from Milan all the way back to Turin, where we've been, is one of the most populated areas of this part of Europe, in fact. Chance to welcome the Giro d'Italia for everybody. And the Giro d'Italia is very pleased to be back in its traditional finishing home. It's always strange for me when we have a Giro that doesn't finish in Milan. Last year in Trieste, it was nice to see it differently, but of course, this is where the race belongs. It's a bit like going back to the Champs-Élysées in France and Paris, isn't it?
Yes, it's a little bit like that, exactly, going to to Paris. And it's an important one for a big tour that they have, you know, a place where they finish. And the Tour of France, of course, Champs-Élysées, you know, it is the Champs-Élysées, and that is, you know, it's just an important finish. It's a great finish, and the Giro having problems, you know, keeping a finish like Milan. It doesn't seem that the city maybe are as keen for it as Paris would be for the Tour de France, and that is a bit of a disappointer.
Yeah, and we saw it in Rome a few years ago when they tried to do, well, they managed to do the finish in Rome, that famous day when Dennis Menchel fell off on the time trial, and we finished outside of the Colosseum, which may be the most historical office view I think I've ever had from a commentary box. Looking outside the window, you've got the you know, the finish there in the Colosseum. This, by the way, is the central train station, the one I was talking about not so long ago, and that huge skyscraper, the administration building of the Lombardy region next to it. Milan has had very much a facelift. But Sean was saying those in the region not too keen on hosting the finish. And I know they get a lot of complaints from residents because you've got to close the roads, you've got to move things around. For a lot of people who don't like cycling, it's a hindrance to daily life, isn't it? And that's the problem, really, that these events have.
Well, cycling is a big hindrance when, you know, you come to a stage, into a city, into a town, you know, it just closes down the whole town for many hours. And of course, you know, a finishing circuit, as we can see here, you know, over 5 kilometres, it's going to be closed down for a long time, and this is a problem with the residents. But when you look at the Tour de France, they can come to Paris or Champs-Élysées, they can do it. Why can they not do it in other countries?
Get the Tour of Sport involved. A national seal of approval. Racing's on and we have a breakaway. 6 laps to go. Turbo Durbo. Luke Durbridge, for all you Australian fans staying up all night long. It was well worth it. He's in a break with Elio Kessa of Belgium. Orica Green Edge and Ethics Quickstep represented. Still Tinkoff Saxo on the front by the very nature of the circuit. Sprint teams not coming to the front just yet. Tinkoff Saxo not bothered about the break, of course. And now, Sean, it's down to the sprinters teams to take control.
It's coming to that point, you know, when the 6 laps to go as it went through the finish area, and when there's 2 riders just going off the front. If Tinkoff Saxo do not, you know, just keep the pace real high and just hold these guys at 10 or 15 seconds, then we will see the sprinter teams coming to the front pretty quickly.
Welcome back to British viewers who join us just as the race is on. Elio Kessa and Luke Durbridge out there in the front. They took and managed to take off from the peloton. A few little technical areas to be negotiated on this circuit. 5.4 k's to go, and it's now down to sprinters teams to try and control this. Elio Kessa of Ethics Quickstep, the Belgian. Further behind as we look at the park and the arch. He's joined by Luke Durbridge. Kessa on the left-hand side, then all skin-suited up and ready. Luke Durbridge taking advantage, and Orica Green Edge had a fantastic start to this Giro d'Italia. They always planned to pull out Michael Matthews and Simon Gerrans at the end of the second week. Things went to plan. They didn't manage to take a stage later on in the race. Perhaps Esteban Chavez trying to do things. Ten seconds. Oh dear. Both wheels.
Where's he going?
Eugenio Alafacci having a puncture in both wheels. Is that a problem that's been caused by that little section there, you think?
Well, it can be a problem. You know, if you hit the tram lines very hard, you could actually get the puncture. But surprising that he's the only one to get 2 of them. I don't know what is the reason, but he'd be better off to get a bike change there and get moving. But of course, on the team car, you know, the riders all haven't got a spare bike, and so he's looking like he's going to have a long chase to get back on, as we see our 2 out front here, an 18 seconds advantage. This is going to be an interesting one, because we did see BMC with Phil Gilbert in the earlier intermediate sprint. It's definitely, you know, the tactic of BMC to try and, you know, get the points in this second sprint as well, with 3 laps to go. So I'd not be surprised if we see them come to the front pretty soon and just open the pace to try and pull these 2 leaders back before that point.
Yeah, the end of the 3rd lap we've got that intermediate sprint, so you can imagine the likes of Marcus Burkhardt is going to have his work cut out over the next couple of laps. Sylvain Dillier there as well. Stefan Kung would have been strong to do that, but he's at home recovering from a fractured vertebra, that he took early on in the Giro. Scabo Grumai going to finish his first Giro d'Italia at the back, the Ethiopian champion. 23 seconds now for Elio Kessa and Luke Durbridge. And if you were to pick 2 fast, strong riders to go out there and have a try in the break, and what is essentially a silly break today on this circuit, you'd certainly pick 2 guys. Well, they'd probably be the 2, wouldn't they? Or 2 of them.
Well, there are 2 of them, and you know, Luke Durbridge is a real strong, powerful rider on this sort of circuit. Plenty of room there Ilio Kaysen as well, a track rider, so you know he's able to handle the corners here without any problems. So 2 good riders out in front, but it's always, you know, so difficult to pull out enough an advantage. But they are left to pull out a nice 31 seconds at the moment, so it is growing all the time. It would be interesting to see as we come through this time. You know, will there be a change? Still, Contador's team controlling the front of the peloton.
And they're happy to do that, but of course they know very soon that other teams will come to the front. Sonny Colbrelli fan club on the left-hand side with the flags, and this is the pink jersey group. Ilio Kaysen mentioned, a great track rider. I wonder if his big mate Mark Cavendish is watching today. Now he's down in Tuscany training at the moment. Luke Durbridge, well, he'll have spent a lot of time in Italy as the Australian youth development team based up here in the north of Italy. The National Cycling Centre has a home in Varese. There is that section again we've been talking about, just on the left-hand side, peloton approaching it. You've got cobbles and a couple of tram tracks, and they're at a very slight angle as well. They don't go directly across the road. Already seen 1 or 2 punctures there. You can see as well, just after Sean, the road sort of narrows a little too.
Yes, and we can see there the movement, the motorbike as they go over it. You can see the motorbike, the movement, so they are a little bit of a dip there, and they are quite a rough section, and in the sprint it's always a little concern so close to the line.
5 laps to go then. Just over 20 kilometres remain. Everybody bunched together apart from 2 riders up the front. Edix Quickstep with Ilio Kaysen, the Belgian strong track rider. He's been at another breaks and very close to a victory this year, thinking most notably at the Tour of Oman. And his man and partner in crime from Orica Green Edge, the Australian Luke Durbridge out there. We're off for our final commercial break before the big sprint show in Milan. You rejoin us with 23.7 kilometres to go. Ilio Kaysen and Luke Durbridge out there in the front on a twisty, turny circuit around the city of Milan, which welcomed homes the Giro d'Italia yet again. We're going to have an intermediate sprint coming up soon. End of the 3rd lap. 21.6 k's to go will happen. We've just seen behind Sky coming to the front, the first sign of any other team taking control of things. Bernie Eisel very close to the front. Kirienka doing the work at the minute as well. First change in the chasing group, Sky to the front. They've taken over from that man's team. The winner of the Giro d'Italia, provided he gets over the line in the next 20 k's, Alberto Contador and Tinkoff Saxo. And that is the view of the cathedral, the Duomo of Milan. 1.8 kilometres to go for our 2 breakers till they get to the intermediate sprint. Ilio Kaysen is there. Behind, you have Luke Durbridge. Intermediate sprint points available for, of course, the intermediate sprint competition, but everybody's thinking of the red jersey, the points jersey competition at the minute, and that's why Sky have taken it up at the front, you imagine.
Yes, well, I was expecting BMC. They were the ones I thought they would react pretty quickly to, you know, to keep this one under control. But now, with our 2 men in front, the advantage they've got, they're going to go on and contest the sprint. So, for Philippe Gilbert, that intermediate sprint classification, he's not going to, you know, move any further on that. And the points classification as well, he will be hoping to get some points here. We can still do that, but will the other sprinters have a go for the sprint? It looks like that Sky are the ones who are bossing the front of peloton for the moment.
Sky are there, Trek Factory racing behind for Giacomo Nizzolo, who's in the red jersey. In the meantime, this is the last kilometre, and we're getting a good look at it again now. You've got this long little bit of a straight now. After that, though, remember, train tracks, cobbles, 150 metres from the line. Lots of twists and turns on the way in. Can you see those causing any problems, Sean, on that last lap where the pace is really up? Lots of quite technical turns.
Well, there is a lot of technical ones and tight ones, and you know, when you're going at a rate of 50 plus kilometers per hour, it can be always dangerous because, you know, space is so tight, and you know, there's so much fighting for space. You need a rider just, you know, to come in a place where there's not enough room, and that can cause a problem, and down they can go.
Brilliant crowds here in Milan, by the way, to welcome home the Giro d'Italia. Luke Durbridge, he's the man in the front of the white, green and navy blue for Orica Green Edge, the Australian team. And the Aussie is joined by the man from Belgium, Ilio Kaysen. Lampre coming to the front as well, so it looks as though these intermediate sprint points are going to be contested. No doubt that it's the breakaway that's going to take the majority of them, but behind, remember, there's the hunt for the red jersey. Sean Kelly next to me already with his calculator, ready to do the sums for the leaderboard. I'm sure the graphic department will be doing the best to do that as well. But here we go. It is Giacomo Nizzolo who's being led out now. Behind you had Salvatore Puccio of Sky in the black jersey, looking round, having a little word with Elia Viviani. On their wheel in the pink, it's Sacha Modolo and Lamprey, the three main contenders for this jersey. It looks, though, that nobody's going to challenge here. Giacomo Nizzolo is going to go out and take the points.
Yes, he's going to take some very important points here, because the other ones, you know, not continuing and to make the effort here. So Giacomo Nizzolo is going to, you know, take an advantage here, and he's going to be there on the sprint as well, unless there's a problem in the end. So it looks like that for the points classification, he should be able to hold on.
Advantage Giacomo Nizzolo in the red jersey classification, but it's something that he will want to crown with a stage win, I'm sure. Nizzolo's never won a stage here. He certainly hasn't been close enough at this Giro d'Italia so far. Been up there, had placings. It was the same story for both Viviani and Modolo until this season, really, if you think about it. Viviani getting his breakthrough win in Genoa. We've seen Modolo getting his wins in the second and third weeks. What's he going to do now? Back of the peloton, look at the pace on Matteo Tosato with a flat. Trying to get back in through the cars. Well, he'll certainly want to be involved for Alberto Contador. He's an important man to keep him safe, isn't he, in the last few kilometres?
Well, a very important one, because he's the one can, you know, ride in the final on the front of the peloton on this sort of circuit. He's, you know, really good at that, and it looks like that cobble section is causing problems, because we're having the punctures just after it. So again, it looks like, you know, for Tosato, that's where he had his mechanical problem.
Well, just imagine if somebody's trying to sprint there in the last 100 metres and the tyre goes pop. It could be chaos.
Yes, well, I'm not sure if it'll go pop. You know, you could pinch the tyre, you know, good, and then you have a flat quite quickly, but it's not going to just go, you know, explode as such, hopefully. And I think that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing some riders just having puncture problems.
Well, we've seen a few of them stopping immediately after the section. Red jersey of Nizzolo, back with Modolo there. Oh, there we go, out the way. That's interesting, Sean. Heavyweight boxers, is that the squaring up bit they do the day before for the television cameras?
Well, we could see there that Richesi, he got a good shoulder, and it's starting to start already. I'm not sure what was the problem there. It looks like that, you know, they had a little problem before that, because he came in very aggressive, so there must have been a problem a little bit earlier, which we haven't seen.
Well, no need for Sean to do his mental arithmetic, because Giacomo Nizzolo, thanks to our graphics, is at 1:67 ahead of 1:48 from Philippe Gilbert. It's a really healthy lead, isn't it? Provided he's in the top 5 or so.
Yes, well, if he just makes a good place in the finish, then he is guaranteed to win the points and the red jersey. So he's, you know, pretty much secured it now, and that's sometimes a problem as well. Is he going to be thinking of the red jersey, because you know, you're going to have to take risk in this final, that's certain. And if you were thinking about, you know, not taking too much risk, well, then that can affect your goal for the stage victory. But it will be interesting. But it looks like that he is, you know, up for it here. The way he's shouldering Richesi there, well, he seems to be in the aggression mode.
Now there's a rogue Trek Factory Racing rider right in the centre of your screen there, just at the back of the Tinkoff train. Another bit of a push there with the rider in front of him, who's number 94, who's Modolo himself. The rider behind who was pushing him was Fabio Silvestre. There's still a lot of talk going on, bit of trash talk. It really is like the weigh-in. I was trying to think of the word before. I'm not a big boxing fan, but when you see the weigh-in the day before, and you've got it on the news where they're all saying nasty things to each other, squaring up, trying to look as hard as they can. It's a bit like that, isn't it?
Well, it is starting very early, and I'm asking myself the question, where does it, you know, start out? Because I think we haven't seen the initial one, and it's going on. Normally in a situation like this, you know, you would just follow, and you shouldn't have any problem. We can see here the discussion is still, you know, still going on between the riders there.
Finger pointing from Nizzolo, and another rider coming in straight away from Lamprey, just to assert his authority. All good fun and games, and we've had no shortage of argy-bargy in this Giro d'Italia. Every day you look at the fines list and the list of tickings off from the teachers, if you like, the jury. the killjoys of the sport. We've had loads of fines given out for insults and things like that. So either it's been a very tense Giro, or the UCI have been extra strict in giving out the detentions and the lines, if you like.
Well, I think the fines have been quite strong from the commissaires on this race. You know, they have been dishing them out a lot, and of course, if you start to break the rules and the commissaires are about, they see it, well then immediately you're hit with a fine. Here we're seeing a bit of movement, a bit of shouldering. That's not going to have a problem at all, because you're allowed to do that. The moment you keep your hands on the bars and you don't start pushing riders about, well then you're okay. But they're starting to shoulder each other quite early in this one, and when it starts at this point, it's always a risk that they go overboard as you get closer to the finish, and that could cause a big one.
Lots of pressure, lots of testosterone flying about between the big thick leg sprinters. Egos up there as well. It's going to be a real big fight to the finish. Matteo Tozzato is back on the end of the peloton. He'll want to get in and around Alberto Contador to keep him nice and safe, certainly with the elbows flying about as they are. 31 seconds with 16 kilometers to go, and another lap is completed. 3 laps to go after this. The man at the front in the black and white, the man from the Belgium team, Elio Kessa, but with him is Luke Durbridge. 3 laps to go, as you can see. Sky on the front for Elia Viviani. Good 450, 500 meters behind. 31 seconds that equates to. And they're all strung out. It's the final big effort for everybody at the Giro d'Italia. And there will be some very sore legs after the last couple of days. Tozzato right in the back there. Fleet of cars that's driving around this circuit. Costa Rican flag spotted around 400 meters for the line for Andrea Amador. And look at that, more punctures, more problems. It's the giant team, and it looks though, Sean, riders are having real trouble with that little section that we were worried about as soon as we came to air today.
Yes, although I don't think it was the little section there, because we could see the giant Alpecin riders, they were changing just on the on that section, so it had to be before. Is there something on the road?
And it's Mezget's, pardon me, that's had the problem. Luca Mezget's, pardon me, Sean, sorry for interrupting. Ludvigsson, the man on the graphic, there's the man who's given him the wheel. The sprinter Mezget's at 14.9 Ks for the line. Having to make that effort, Sean, big question, does that put him out of contention?
Yes, I think it's going to be very difficult for him. We can see here, as you go further back the line, and we did see just before we see the 2 giant Alpecin riders, and for Mezgec this is going to be too much of an effort. And if you have any chance of making the front, well then for the final I don't think he's going to be up to it, and I'd be surprised if we see him getting back into the front end of the peloton.
Tired out Luca Mezgec would be if he get back to the front. 34 seconds for these guys, holding their advantage well. Another of those very technical bits of road you can see. Just imagine coming through in a big group, wheels very close, a lot of nervousness about. Those big egos who we're talking about as well, and the pushing and shoving behind. One man we haven't mentioned is in there as well, Moreno Hofland in the yellow. Russian champion is Alexander Porsev, as you can see. Salvatore Puccio, perhaps just having a problem with his radio there. Trying to radio in with Elia Viviani, looking around. I wonder if they've lost somebody. This, in the meantime, was an attempt to go... Oh, they've lost Bernie Eisel. Bernie Eisel having to get a new bike. It's a small one, though, isn't it?
Is it Eisel or is it Viviani? It looked like Eisel is pulling over there, but I think it's Viviani has got the problem.
Look on the left-hand side. Yeah, Sky have moved, you can see. Viviani's had a problem with Eisel there. Eisel trying to give him his bike. But you can see there was a concerted difference in the size of the bikes they had as well. Look at this, Lampre trying to take advantage now. Tinkoff want to control things to keep everybody safe. Well, our colleague Brian Smith thinks it's a Koenig puncture.
Yes, we can see Viviani is actually in the front there. Seen a flash of him there. He's in the front end of the peloton, so it has to be Koenig has the problem. But it was definitely a man of importance within Sky, because everybody was on the radio, we could see, and they were trying to make a wheel change as quickly as possible.
Koenig is important because he's 6th overall at 10 minutes 50, and those gaps are very tight from 5th to 10th in the overall general classification. But of course the racing's on now. 12.9 Ks to go. These guys are up the front, and you can't blame the sprinters team, Sean, for wanting to keep the pace on at the front. and these guys in check.
Yes, well, the race is on in the front, and you know, there's nothing you can do about that. And mechanical problem at the wrong time is just real bad luck. And anybody, the sprinters or the guys who open the general classification, it's a real difficult one. But at least with the general classification, if you make it back into the end of the peloton and move your way up, you just have to try and hang in there. But if you're a sprinter, to make the effort to get in and then try and go for the sprint as well, that is a big ask.
It's a huge ask as Tinkoff Saxo take it up at the front again. Borsev is there, the Russian champion for Katusha. Luca Paolini close to the front. And the man coming up to the front as well is Sergei Lagutin, who's a very, very fast man and could be important in the lead-out train. Sky then, with Sebastian Henao at the back. And here is Leopold Koenig. Koenig then with a puncture being helped back on, and that's going to disrupt Sky's plans for the sprint, isn't it now? Because guys have had to worry about something else when they were trying to take control of the race, and the train at the front.
Yes, and that is a problem when you're in a team that you have your interest in the general classification and also interest for the sprint here in the end. And for Viviani now, he's just going to have to defend for himself because all the other riders are looking after the general classification man from Sky.
Meantime, this gap keeps growing. 46 seconds now, Kessert and Durbridge, and that little bit of chaos and confusion behind is certainly helping their cause. Still a big ask, though, for these two guys.
Well, if anybody can do it, I think these are the two guys you would put out in front. And when you have a group of two riders, they don't really panic back in peloton too early. But we can see now they're starting to up the pace here, and it's Lampre and Marido who are getting concerned that this advantage is a bit too much for good.
Well, you think about it, two of the major sprint teams have had problems. Mezgec has had to come behind, so they're not going to do any work at the front. Sky have had problems, they move away at the front. That really leaves the train of Sacha Modolo and the train of Trek Factory Racing. Trek Factory Racing have almost assured themselves of the points jersey now, so they're going to say, hang on a minute, all the pressure on Lampre, you guys go for it, we'll sit on your wheel.
Well, of course, Lampre, we've seen him when Modolo won the last stage, they did not contribute anything until the very end. So now it's a different situation. They're starting to get into a panic situation.
Just over 10 Ks to go, the latest of a series of punctures. Oh, the riders aren't going to be happy after today. There will be some angry voices and tweets going out. There are 10.6 Ks to go. Across the finish line we come once again. The break has almost a minute now. 2 laps to go. And on a Giro where we've had so much excitement, so many unexpected things happen, are we about to see it again?
I think it's looking good for the two out front because as we've seen, a lot of teams have had problems, so it's diluted the power on the front of the peloton. The teams you would expect to be controlling the situation, it's Tinkoff who are controlling now at the moment, and that is not normal in this situation. You would expect the sprinters teams to be totally in control with 2 laps to go.
It's a telltale sign that something's not right, isn't it, when the GC teams are in control here on a flat stage like this. The last chance to take something out of the Giro d'Italia. Ethics Quick-Step have their chance, as do Orica Green Edge. 44 seconds as they come across the line. 9.8 kilometres remain. 2 laps to go. What's going to happen? And another puncture. This time it's Philippe Gilbert. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, whoever put that finish line there, Sean, whoever put the tram lines there and didn't cover it up, they might be calling the boss's office in the morning.
Well, it's surprising to see so many punctures on a circuit like this. It looks very clean, so why are the so many punctures? And it looks like that it's that just section of cobbles and the tram lines that's causing it all.
That's Michael Hepburn, who's the latest to have a problem. Problems too as well for Clément Chevrier, who's about to finish his first ever Giro d'Italia. Young rider who's come with Yam Cycling. He was pleased to get to Milan. He'll be hoping just to get back on the end of the peloton. Oh, and another sprint possibility goes. Goodbye, Heinrich Hausler, the Australian champion, puncturing. And this is a bit of a disaster, isn't it?
Yes, it's turning out to be certainly a disaster for a lot of riders and a lot of teams here, because anybody with interest to be on the front and you have a puncture on this circuit at all with 3-4 laps to go, it's pretty much game over.
Do you know, I'm hoping that nobody's put any tax out on the road, because we said that there are problems in cities sometimes. People don't want the race to come by. It can be dangerous. Whatever you think of the cycling, it can be ridiculously dangerous.
I don't think it's the the little section of cobbles and that the tram lines is causing it. It seems to be before that. We've seen a number of riders before that they had the problem, so it looks like there's something else on the road.
Well, it's a good job we don't have a tyre sponsor today, isn't it? Because they won't be very popular. So Trek Factory Racing and Katusha take responsibility for things. Katusha with Porsev, who normally wouldn't be as fast as the big sprinters, might smell an opportunity here.
Well, I think again, it all depends how the riders are feeling, and you know yourself as a rider how you're getting through the last number of days. If you're feeling really good, then you're going to say to the team and the riders, I feel okay, I can have a go for the sprint. And at the end of a 3-week tour, it's a different situation because a lot of tired riders. So a guy who's not as fast, maybe he's finishing very strong, well then it's an opportunity for him.
Elio Kess on the left-hand side, Luke Durbridge just behind him. These guys will be riding for their lives now because they could be going into the history books on a very, very famous end to a very, very famous stage on the Giro d'Italia. Lotto NL Jumbo chasing for their sprinter Moreno Hofland. There's a bit of organisation getting together now. Jam Cycling for some reason getting to ride towards the front. Of course, their main sprinter Heinrich Hausler punctured and out of contention. 40 seconds now. Sean, how much do they need when they get across the finish line for the last lap?
Well, I think if they can hold on to that 40 seconds, well then they should be able to stay out there. We can see there's teams appearing, doing a little bit. We can see Lotto and El Jumbo there, Martin Talenghi, and we can see Française de Joux starting to appear. They all know now this is, it's now or never.
Kevin Reza, maybe one for him. Française de Joux have had a pretty poor time of it. Can Androni Giocattoli get there? They've got a sprinter, remember. Davide Apollonio, who spent time with Sky, who spent time with Âge de la Mondiale in France. He's now with Gianni Savio, Swiss Tony's Androni Giocattoli. And this is turning out to be a chaotic finale. Looking down, Aru, Contador and the rest staying out of the chaos here and staying safe towards the back. But is it safe towards the back? That's the question, because if you've got crashes as well as punctures, then that's where the real chaos could begin. 36 seconds for the two breakaway riders. 6.8 kilometres to go, and we're approaching the final kilometre and the final preview for everybody. Two teams seem to have come out of this unscathed at the minute. Two of the big teams were saying, Lampre and Katusha.
Yes, and we can see here in the front of the peloton, it's Chavanel who was looking about there and securing the pulling on the front, but no team organised for the moment. And when you look at 34 seconds, if they can go through the finish line with that advantage, well then, if they're not a team who get organised and really up the pace here, you can see a lot of teams present, but there's nobody committed and really putting on a good pace. So it's getting interesting for the two out front. They're still in there with a good chance of maybe holding on.
Remember, Greipel went home, Matthews went home. Of course, we also lost several sprinters. Petacchi retired yesterday. We've had guys who have punctured here, the likes of Hausler, Mezgec, all of them probably out of contention. At the minute, trying to push on, we have Orica Greenedge with Luke Durbridge heading towards the line where he'll take the bell, and his breakaway companion, Elio Kessa, with behind Sylvain Chavanel, doing a lot of work for Jam Cycling. His former teammates of Française de Joux might all be very happy too. He's got another former teammate in the break, Elio Kessa. He won't be too happy. Kessa on the left-hand side, Durbridge there. These guys know they have a real opportunity to do something very, very special indeed. Androni, Lampre, Jam Cycling and Katusha all working together to try and bring this back. It's fast, it's chaotic, punctures all over the place, and we're about to come through, take the bell, last lap of the final stage of this Giro d'Italia. It's all exciting. Sean Kelly on the spot, breakaway or sprint?
I think it's going to be a sprint. The way that the front of the peloton, we can see a lot of different teams, and Lampre really pushing on here, really upping the pace. But 5 kilometres to go, I think the advantage is coming down very quickly.
Well, this is the way this Giro had to finish, isn't it? Expect the unexpected. We've said it on several days. So much to come. Everybody's trying to get through this circuit unscathed. Any more punctures? Just look for any guys stopping. Good news for Jam Cycling is that Heinrich Hausler's there. We're seeing gaps open up here as well. Problem there for one of the Tinkoff riders, I think, too. Contador looks safe. Aru looks safe, as does Mikel Landa. GC at the minute not affected.
32 seconds for two leaders on the road. It's going to be a tight one, and again, you know, unless the peloton can really keep the pace high, if they start to look around the teams, the little bit of rivalry, if they start doing that, who's going to, you know, pull just to close down the final bit to the two leaders out in front, well then we could see the two going on and contesting for stage victory.
Iljo Kessa from Belgium wearing number 65. He's 32 now, just 3 wins as a professional. His closest to a Giro win was second on a stage here last year. Luca Paolini at the front. Yam Cycling coming up as well.
It's over.
Yep.
I think, look, we can see here on the front of the peloton there's a lot of, you know, looking about. Nobody wants to commit here, no team. You need 2 riders at least, you know, to go and just drive it on full pace here. 29 seconds at the moment. I think the 2 out front will hold out.
Absolutely magnificent. You also saw Fabio Sabatini coming to the front, just trying to spoil things a little for Ethics Quickstep with them in mind. Bardiani have a rider there. Looks as though it could be Birazzi, actually. No, he's too big for Birazzi. Think about that one again. ʻdʒiːro coming to the front now. Kevin Reza on the left-hand side too. Porsev is the man in the Russian champions jersey. Hofland is there, and Viviani fighting for his own chances. This is Luke Durbridge, though, 24 years of age, 8 wins as a professional, 2 Giro d'Italia stages as part of teams. He's never won one on his own on the road. Late attack, and here it goes. Patrick Gretsch to have another day. Well, can he bridge the gap? Well, it's a big ask, isn't it?
It is a big ask, and when you see somebody, you know, attacking out of the peloton, you could see there's just a lot of looking around at the front of the peloton. Nobody was really pushing on here, and you know, it gives an opportunity for somebody to go on the attack, like Patrick Gretsch, but it just tells that the pace is not as high as you would be expecting to be with just 2.8 to go for our 2 leaders.
Another breakaway day in prospect, we shall see. Patrick Gretsch, the former man from the HTC High Road train, now with ʻdʒiːro Mondial, pushing on for his new French team. Second years in those colours now, but it is Kessa on the right, Durbridge on the left, a nervous look round. They'll know exactly what's going on here, Sean. They will have radio communication.
Yes, but you know, it's a normal thing for a biker to just have a little glance over your shoulder to see what the situation is behind, in case you know, if we come down to the sprinter, it will be an interesting one. He normally should be the better one in the sprint, but they have to commit, they have to continue riding well together, because the advantage, although still 28 seconds, I think it's going to be a bit less than that.
27 seconds is the GPS count. Giant Alpecin with Luca Mezget's back on the train, willing to give it a go. It's their last chance to take something from a barren, winless Giro d'Italia so far for the team that is so used to taking stage after stage after stage at a Grand Tour. They lose 1 man, they only have 2 left. If they do get Luca Mezget's in position, they've no lead out. Behind you have ʻdʒiːro ready and primed to take the points jersey. Secretly, he'll be happy about this, won't he?
Well, I think it takes the pressure off, of course, from ʻdʒiːro. You know, you're not going to have to take as much risk here, and we can see here on the front of the peloton, you know, 26 seconds in advantage. It's going to be between our 2 leaders for the stage victory here.
25 seconds, 1.7 kilometers to go. This is absolutely amazing. We've been surprised ever since day 1 on the Giro d'Italia. We had those surprisingly good team time trials from Tinkoff Saxo. We saw Astana right up there as well. Orica Green Edge winning. Then we went into the mountains and the hills of Liguria. Those crazy fast stages, the shocking falls, the shocking wins as well. All that control into the second week, the crashes, the penalties, the magnificent mountains. And now we're here for a final look at things. And the only thing that can stop them getting across the line is too much messing about here,
yes,
Sean.
If they start play about, and we can see Iljo Kessa there is just not going to come to the front here, and they cannot start doing that. We're still outside a kilometre to go. They have to continue on working, but 23 seconds advantage, it still should be good enough.
Last kilometre then, ultimo chilometro of this Giro d'Italia. Here we are on the straight. 800 metres to go. They swing across the road. It's cat and mouse time. Is it going to be enough of a buffer? 20 seconds at the last count. Peloton behind. Not all the sprinters are there, but it's one last gigantic effort to try and make sure they get the win that their efforts today would deserve. Durbridge is there. He's been out in the break with Kessa for a while. He's been on the front for the last kilometre. Kessa with the advantage to try and pounce.
Well, I think Kessa is the one in the sprint who is, that little bit faster. And for Durbridge, he has to try and maybe go for a long one. If he leaves it to the final 200 metres, well, Kessa is the one who is the most explosive.
Oh, and it's like watching track racing. These two have been on the track ever since they were juniors. They know what it's about. Durbridge in front, Kessa behind. But look at the huge mass of riders chasing them. Only 300 metres from the line now. They're going to get over the tram lines. Trek Factory Racing start to believe it's a typically brilliant finish to this Giro d'Italia. Here we go. It's going to be the two in front, surely. The sprint is led out by Durbridge on the right-hand side. Kessa's on the left, who can't get onto his wheel at the minute. Here goes Kessa, though. Takes it over the front. Ethics Quick-Step finally going to get their victory. It's Ilio Kessa from a breakaway. And who would have thought it? A sprint day is spoiled. In the meantime, behind sprinters for the red jersey points, and it's taken by the man from Yam Cycling, who looks like it could well have been Santa Montins. Ilio Kessa with a first individual stage win on a Grand Tour, the fourth victory of his career. A big hug between the two, a sporting gesture. They knew they had to work together to get the chance, but what a day, what a win. Etix's Giro has been saved, and saved in a day that will be written and talked about for a long, long time to come. Yes. The winner, in the meantime, Sean, of the Giro d'Italia is Alberto Contador. Aru will finish second, Landa will finish third, and in amongst all of that messing about, all of that drama, we forget about the big prize. But the prize on the day, the joy on the day, as Alberto Contador goes to celebrate a second win of the Giro d'Italia in the record books. In the record books, for the first time at a Grand Tour, it's a stage win for that man, Ilio Kessa.
Yes, and what a surprise, what a turn up of the books, because you would expect it to be a big sprint here. The two men that you would, you could see holding on. I think rivalry between the big sprinters teams helped a lot, but you can't take nothing away from the two men who just really rode at such a strong pace out front.
Kessa, Durbridge, Kluge, Portsev and ʻdʒiːro. The day belongs to Ilio Kessa. Contador mobbed at the finish line. Kessa can't believe what's happened. What an amazing day. That should not have been allowed to stick. The sprinters know it. He knows it. As a fast man himself, he's part of a hugely big, important lead train for Mark Cavendish and the rest of the sprinters at Ethics Quick-Step. But Ilio Kessa has managed to hold them all off, take victory, and it's the story of this Giro all the way from start to finish. And all the men at the finish ready to pick through it. Greg LeMond, Juan Antonio Fletcher and Ashley House are there. Ilio Kessa takes the win. Huge surprise. What a day. What a Giro d'Italia. Turin to Milan ends in drama. Kessa takes the win. Contador takes the overall.
In association with the Israel Ministry of Tourism.
It's the best sport in the world when it's like this. Ilio Kessa and Luke Durbridge, surprising, shocking everybody, even themselves. Kessa takes the win. Stage 21 of the Giro goes to the Belgian. Ethics Quick-Step have their victory. In the meantime, Alberto Contador takes the pink jersey. 21 days, all ends here. We've been up and down the Italian peninsula. It has been an absolute hoot. Drama every day. Kessa with the final chapter. Let's go and pick the bones of it. Here's Ashley House.
Hello, welcome back to Giro Extra, where you've just witnessed an extraordinary stage. We usually expect a parade, a procession in the last stage of a Grand Tour. Today, something totally different. Ilio Kessa getting Ethics Quick-Step's first stage victory of this Giro d'Italia. Juan Antonio Fletcher is here, and of course, Greg LeMond with me. Greg, we certainly didn't expect a breakaway to stick on circuits of Milan on the last stage of a Grand Tour.
Usually when you least expect it, something happens. So
Especially
both riders had such experience as track riders. You watch them kind of looking at each other. Guess is really a great track rider, knows tactics, but it was very exciting. does. Most people don't expect a two-man breakaway to make it to the finish, so it disappointed a lot of sprinters out there.
It did disappoint a lot of sprinters. Interesting what Greg was saying about track racing. Sean Kelly was mentioning that on the commentary too, and you could see them over the shoulder. It was like watching it in a track.
Yeah, it was beautiful to watch again. Very exciting. I was getting so emotional at the final. I really was honestly not expecting this, but when you can have riders like Luke Dobrich, time trial especially, that guy won the Under-23 World Championship back in 2011 in Copenhagen. Elio Case, 6-day track specialist. So we again had a fantastic and so exciting final here in the Giro and Milano. Honestly, I'm not going to forget for sure this edition of Giro d'Italia.
I don't think any of us will forget this Giro d'Italia. Of course, Alberto Contador remains and takes the Maglia Rossa. Giacomo Nizzolo actually didn't need to win the stage today. He's retained the points jersey as well. We should mention the punctures that happened. An awful lot of punctures here. People saying maybe it was the tramways. There are lots of old tramways here in Milan, but who knows?
Who knows? Starting Milano, San Remo, it's around here always, so it's not happening in those punctures. We don't know. That's something that we will find out probably tomorrow. We find out if it's kind of hijacking or not, or was just the fact that we were here in Milano and yeah, it was the day of the punches. But it was an issue, that's for sure. I mean, I was scared because after so many rides having a puncture and mechanical, so also Tosata had a mechanical, so you, with having this Giro d'Italia, you always expect that maybe something else is going to happen.
Well, hopefully it's not a repeat of 2011 and Cadel Evans on the Tour de France. Thinking about the lead-out trains for the sprinters teams, you said they were disappointed, Greg. What do you think happened? Do you think they just didn't expect not to catch the breakaway?
Were they expecting such a strong group? No, they overestimated their strength, and it's kind of, cycling's always kind of a strategy. It's a tactic, and it's you roll the dice. Even the two riders, they came to a standstill. You can see the peloton coming up. They had Luke had to bluff himself. I mean, he's going to try to win it. He's going to try to force Kais into the front. So, just racing. It's exciting. It's not always a sprint. It's not always a breakaway that wins a race. You never know.
No, that's absolutely
a mystery. Sometimes.
Yeah, it is a mystery. This Giro certainly has been unexpected. But let's hear from today's stage winner, Elio Kese of Ethics Quickstep.
Not really. Before the race, we had kind of a plan for me and Saba to do something in the sprint to try maybe drop the gap in one of the last corners, because I know I corner pretty good. So, but I saw there was a little bit hesitation when we came in the circuit, and I got Luke Durbridge as my partner in crime, and we worked perfectly together. We had a pretty big advantage in the last lap, so I knew it was for the win. And then I counted on my sprint, didn't do any more pulls in the last kilometer, and so happy with this win also for my team, Ethics Quickstep. We didn't win this year, and it was a pretty big difference with the last 2 years, which were very successful in this Giro, and I'm so happy with the win and also for the team.
You looked quite relaxed over the last kilometre. Obviously you had the time gaps from the team cars behind, but Luke Durbridge, you left him on the front for a long time.
Yeah, well, I pulled last time with 1.5K to go, and then I hear we still had more than 30 seconds, so I knew it wasn't possible to catch it. And put a little bit pressure on Luke's shoulders, say no, I don't take over anymore, and he stayed in front. And then just the last 200 meters, I've seen a lot from Cavendish, of course, how he does it, and so I had some experience from that, and used it today to win.
Great, thanks very much indeed.
Thanks.
Elio Kese obviously extremely happy for today's stage win. We spoke about track cycling, Juan Antonio, and when you look at the profile of today's stage, it goes very, very close to one of the most famous tracks in cycling.
Yeah, Bigorelli track, famous cycle track in Milano, is just around the corner. It's not far from here. And there, next to that track was Masi Manufacturer, who was the manufacturer of the bikes of Eddie Merckx. So we had Elio Kese, Luke Durbridge, track specialists. I want to know from them that really we're giving that tribute to the Bigorelli track, because it's something, I know I'm getting too excited, but it's something very nice. I mean, having those guys finishing that way, like on a track and making it to the final, so close to Bigorelli track, something unique, something to make a mark on that and to remember for sure.
Absolutely. Well, if they didn't give a tribute, you have already, so that's good as well. Let's go back to thinking about the pink jersey. Of course, it's Alberto Contador. His next aim is the double. It's now the Tour de France. And it's funny that Juan Antonio mentioned Eddie Merckx there. Eddie Merckx, one of only 7 people to do that double.
I know, and I think he could do it. I think yesterday's race actually could be the best lesson or best experience coming up to the Tour de France. You know, Contador comes in through it with no problems, goes in there maybe too confident. You know, it'll make him realize that he's vulnerable, and the other riders know he's vulnerable. So it's going to be good for him. I think he'll rethink about his strategy and probably conserve stuff a little bit more. But I think if there's still any favorite, it's Contador. I'd say Quintana would be the next one, but it'll be a good race. It's going to be a great tour.
It is going to be a great tour. One of the guys who we expect to be there for Tinkoff Saxo, not confirmed yet, of course, is Sergio Paulinho, and he's speaking to us now.
Sergio Paulinho, a great moment for the team, but you don't have time for rest. The Tour de France is in all heads for Tinkoff Saxo.
Yes, in less than 1 month you have the tour. So now this night we're gonna stage this Giro, and after tomorrow they start the preparation for the tour.
Yeah, directly tomorrow. Think about the tour. Stay focused on.
Yeah, now I need to recover first from the Giro. I'm not yet know yet if I go to the tour or not, but first I'm gonna recover, and after I'm gonna see.
Okay, congratulations. Obrigado.
La gioia di Alberto Contador che taglia al traguardo, a braccia alzate, il pistolero di Spagna.
Well, Juan Antonio, as we said, we don't know if Paulinho is going to be there. He said he doesn't know either, but talks about recovery. Let's think now about Alberto and his rivals, Chris Froome, Nibali and Quintana. We know that Quintana and Froome are going to be doing the Dauphiné. We know that Nibali is going to be doing the Tour de Suisse. What do you think about that? We think that Contador might do the Route du Sud.
I think first for Contador it's going to be perfect. He's already thinking since yesterday about Tour de France. He's already preparing that next goal. It's something very, very, very nice from him, because that shows how good, such a good champion he is. And for his rivals, the thing comparing to the Giro is he's going to find different rivals. The rivals he's going to meet next to the France are already Grand Tour winners. Chris Froome, Nairo Quintana and Vincenzo Nibali, who won Giro, Vuelta and Tour. So I'm not underestimating his rivals here in the Giro, but for sure he knows he's going to meet bigger rivals. But one more thing about Alberto is that normally, sometimes some riders, the second pick is bigger than better than the first pick. So far until this Giro, Alberto haven't picked, so he's picking his first pick of the season. It seems that it's here the Giro d'Italia. So who knows? It all can happen. I mean, it can happen again that his second pick will be even better than the first pick. And we don't know about the rest of the riders, but yeah, it's gonna be after this Giro. I can't wait for the Tour, honestly. Can't wait.
I know, it's been so exciting. It's going to be amazing, absolutely amazing, the Tour de France. Greg, earlier on you were saying to me that you think doing the Giro, the Route du Sud and then the Tour is actually the best preparation you could have.
From a physiological perspective, if you think about peaking, you want to have a real overload, and if finishing 3-4 weeks before a major event, then you have a small period where you're really fine-tuning your fitness, and which is like the Route du Sud. You know, the Giro's become such a hard race, but if you're in really great shape going into it, you're going to recover. And then I'd say there's a lot of riders that haven't done the double actually thinking about the benefits physically, and certain riders will benefit more than otherwise, but Contador is going to benefit from this. He's going to come in there in really top shape, and I have no worry that he's not going to be recovered. It's not an issue for pro cyclists. It's psychological more than anything.
Okay, well, it's going to be fascinating to watch. First of all, though, let's watch Ilja Kaiser receiving the adulation for today's stage victory.
Ilja Kaiser onto the stage to receive a prize, an individual prize at a Grand Tour for the first time. He won a stage in Turkey in 2012. He won the Ronde van Zeeland this year, the Seaports race. He also took a win last year at the Château Classique de Londres. He's a winner here on a Grand Tour ahead of Luke Durbridge and Holger Kluge. 3 trackies in the top 3 today. And Ilja Kaiser, after all that success in the 6th day with Mark Cavendish, said he learnt from his mate And he's had a big win here in Milan and surprised just about everybody. 32 years of age, and a man from Belgium with a 4th win in his career on what is just his 3rd Grand Tour ride. And a Prosecco moment in Milan. Doesn't get much better than this at the Giro d'Italia. Congratulations, Proficiat, Ilio Kessa.
So that's today's stage winner on the podium. Let's look back a little bit more, Greg, at the Giro. I want to ask you, what was the moment of the Giro for you? What was the thing that you'll remember most?
The Motorola was a great stage. I'd say yesterday had to be the most dramatic. I mean, you saw the first sign of weakness with Alberto Contador, but there's so many other. What I love about bike racing, what I love about like big tours, it's like a series of stories and races and everything. There's drama every single day. So, you know, you can almost go back and every day and every week and look back and there's another interesting story. But I'd say Contador's, I'd call it weak moment yesterday was the highlight, the most dramatic part of the race for me.
Thank you, Greg, very much. We'll get Juan Antonio's thoughts in just a moment. Oh, but first, in fact, let's move over here, Juan Antonio. Let's go over here. Thank you very much indeed. Chris Jensen is here with us from Tinkoff Saxo. Chris, what a fabulous day for you, a great day for Tinkoff Saxo and for Roberto as well.
Oh, absolutely. I'm overwhelmed and extremely relieved. We were happy yesterday and last night. We were enjoying and celebrating the jersey, but I think all of us, we couldn't really relax before Alberto crossed the line one piece for the very last time. So now we're really going to be able to sigh a breath of relief and have a good time tonight.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you enjoy it tonight. Of course, the focus now turns to the Tour de France. What are your thoughts about that and your plans?
Initially, I'm not part of the Tour de France plans, but I'll be joining Alberto and a good few of the Tour de France riders for the Route du Sud, which starts in give or take 3 weeks. So I think we're going to have a good time tonight, and then those who are doing the tour are going to start thinking towards that tomorrow already.
Great, Klaas, congratulations. Thank you very much indeed. So Klaas Jensen, of course, one of Alberto Contador's victorious teammates from Tinkoff Saxo team, and I think we can welcome today's stage winner in as well. Juan Antonio would like to bring him in.
Ilio. Congratulations. Ilio Kessa, how does it feel winning in Milano? Close to Vigorelli, which is a famous track. You're a track rider, same as Luke Durbridge, but I don't know if you also know the fact that next to Vigorelli was the bike manufacturer of Eddy Merckx.
Oh yeah?
So
No, I didn't know. But I was asking in the bus to Bramati this morning, is there still a track in Vigorelli? Because maybe if I had the time I want to have a look. But yeah, he was talking yesterday to me and said, be careful, Ilio, because the criterium in Milano is not always a sprint. There's a lot of corners. I was studying on the book and I knew I could do something, maybe in the last lap. But I had the feeling that it was a good moment with 6 laps to go, and had a perfect mate with me, Luke Durbridge. I'm really thankful to him because we worked perfectly together until the last K, of course. I really had to win this one, and I let him do the work in the last K, and then I counted on my sprint and took the win here. Incredible. I'm so happy. Also for the team, because this Giro wasn't as successful as the last 2 years. 2 years ago with Cavendish, we took 5 stages. Last year, second with Rigo. This year was more, sometimes a little bit disappointing. And I'm so happy we could take this win today.
We're very happy, very proud of you, very proud of your team, and the big show of today. Thank you very much, Ilio.
Yeah, thank you very much. Congratulations, Ilio. Let's go now and look at the podium of the top 3 in the general classification. This is what it's all been about.
Yes, thank you. Mikel Landa, 3rd place. A big one for him, a huge step forward. Sean Kelly's still alongside me, and Sean, Mikel Landa has been one of the great discoveries of this Giro.
Big discovery, and it will be interesting to see what way he comes away from this. Will he come away with the idea, maybe move team, where he can ride his own race? Because with Astana, of course, there's a lot of big hitters there for general classification.
Great stuff from the 25-year-old. He's received his prize. And we're about to hear a huge round of applause for the man that's made Italy dream at the Giro again. It's the man from Sardinia. Listen to this, Fabio Aru. Second place at the Giro for Fabio Aru. A white jersey for the best young rider. Seems strange to see him in blue again after all these weeks. He's the Astana rider. The fan club's in town. The Sardinian flags are waving. And Sean, this man, the next logical step is to move up to the centre of that podium, isn't it?
Yes, well, I think you know, he has had a good Giro. There was times when it looked like they was going to fall apart, but he pulled it together well, finished really strong, winning 2 stages. It proves that he can ride a big 3-week tour. Unfortunately, in the middle of this one, he had a little bit of a downtime, but 24 years of age, definitely a big one for the future.
A huge one for him, but look who's waiting. It's that time, El Pistolero, 32-year-old Alberto Contador. He came here in 2008, came off the beach and won quite conservatively, winning without winning a stage. A brilliant win then. He's taken it again here. Of course, we've seen him holding 3 fingers up. He thinks it's his 3rd. The record books say it's 2, but this has been a wonderful win this year. Contador to be presented as the winner of the Giro. Here he is, Alberto Contador. The first part of the double is done. The pink jersey in Milan goes to Alberto Contador Velasco. Probably the best stage racer we have seen for the last decade or so, and one of the greatest in the history of the sport. He wins in the end by 1 minute and 53 from Fabio Aru. There was a 9-second split over the line today. No problem to worry about that. You can enjoy the celebration, and he will be delighted. A month at altitude preparing for this. Not everything went to plan on the road. A dislocated shoulder, crashes, problems, attacks when he had mechanicals. But he showed his class, he showed his quality, and even survived an off day. Alberto Contador, the winner of the Giro d'Italia in 2015. The man from Madrid in pink here. Sean, will he be in yellow at the end of July?
Well, I think the first objective achieved, a difficult one, a lot of difficult days, but Contador is the man who overcome them all, and now it's focus for the tour.
So we're ready for the Spanish national anthem.
We'll go back to see the end of that in just a moment. Roman Kreuziger is here with Juan Antonio.
Roman Kreuziger, complimenti per questa vittoria, questo lavoro grandissimo che avete fatto per Alberto Contador.
Ma io penso che da primo giorno che siamo andati bene a cronosquadre, tutte e 3 settimane abbiamo dimostrato
on the first day with the team time trial. We were strong in the first week. We weren't as strong as Astana, but we're here in Milan. We've got the maglia rosa, and of course it's important for Alberto and very important for the team as well. We've got a fantastic group.
Per me la giornata in cui te sei stato
For me, the
La Spezia.
big key day was the one to La Spezia. Of course, you made a really difficult race. If Romain Kreuziger wasn't there on that day, it would have been harder. Well, it was a really difficult day. It wasn't easy. Of course, it was important to anticipate what might happen in the end. And of course, we wanted to take the pink jersey that day, but we had it after that. And of course, for the first day, we made sure that we made the race for Alberto.
Congratulations. Let's go back to the podium now and see Alberto Contador celebrating his Maglia Rossa victory.
Fabio Aru to take the white jersey, second in the Giro altogether. Well, that's the man who's been celebrating overall. Alberto Contador, well, at least they got the right anthem for him this time. Last time in Milan in 2011, the wrong old Spanish national anthem with some pretty nasty words on was played. They did it right this year.
Welcome back and congratulations, of course, to Alberto Contador. In fact, I don't know if you can see, but just behind me here is the pink bike that Alberto Contador has been riding today. This is the bike that won the Giro d'Italia today, this afternoon, on the streets of Milan. A fantastic bike, a fantastic achievement, of course. Alberto Contador, his 7th Grand Tour victory. And here it is, we've got Alberto Contador's bike on the show. What better way to say goodbye? Greg LeMond, thank you very much indeed. Juan Antonio Fletcher, thank you for joining me so much. This is Vincent Renault. He's been helping us as well all week. You've seen his interviews. My thanks to everyone behind the scenes as well. There's a whole load of people that you can't see behind the camera. But thank you and goodbye. We'll see you at the Tour de France. Can't wait.
Ciao. Bye-bye.
Thank you, gentlemen. What a Giro d'Italia it has been. From Sean Kelly and me, Rob Hatch, thank you very much for joining us as well. It's been a pleasure to have your company. And we'll have more tomorrow, the best of the Giro d'Italia 2015 from 22:15 in the evening in Central Europe. If you're watching in United Kingdom or Republic of Ireland, that's at 9:15 tomorrow night. Elio Kessler adds more drama to the Giro d'Italia that had plenty of it over 3 weeks. He wins from a breakaway, believe it or not, on another supposed sprint day in Milan, beating Luke Durbridge and Roger Kluger to the line. Overall, though, the winner, Alberto Contador. His 2nd Giro d'Italia win, a 7th Grand Tour, and the first of a possible double with the Tour de France. Well, remember, we'll be back with the Tour on Eurosport. Sean Kelly alongside me will be in France for the entire pot of July. And he'll be following Alberto Contador to see if he can finish July in yellow. Don't leave Eurosport, though, because there is plenty more top sport coming where that came from. We go back to the French Open, very close to entering the 2nd week now. Roland Garros, and as you can see, Jo-Wilfried Tsonga is on court. We'll go and join him in just a moment's time. Off we go to the French capital from the Giro, though, from Sean and me. Thanks for joining us. See you later.